really fast pace. In fact, there's no traffic at all, and this is why this is what this green color indicates on our map this morning. But on the other lane, this is just where traffic begins to slightly build up. But again, I can say that it is quite manageable, because this is again what the orange color is showing us, that yes, there's traffic, but moving at a pretty fast pace. But so you can imagine, as of now, just a couple of minutes past 7 a.m., and this is what you're spotting on Thika Superhighway, specifically at Githurai area. So what of when you get to around 8 or 9, probably the traffic will be quite unmanageable. So that means if you're coming from Githurai, from Wiki, coming to the CBD, or going about your businesses and activities along Thika Road, this might just be the best time for you to do that, because at least in places where we're spotting traffic on this specific highway, as of now, the traffic is quite manageable. Next to Kasarani Police Station, on that specific roundabout, no traffic at all. Also, it's unlike what we'd expect to see, because on roundabouts, whether major roundabouts or just minor roundabouts, we normally spot traffic, and it's because of the obvious reasons. Roundabouts connect to a number of roads, and this is why we normally see traffic build up around major roundabouts. But as of now, on this Roysambu roundabout, and also interestingly, is that this is one of those places along Thika Superhighway where traffic, I can tell you, starts very early in the morning. This is around Roysambu area, because it comes all the way from Wiki, from Githurai, as well as from the outskirts of Nairobi that ply Thika Superhighway. So using this specific roundabout as you come to the city center, even as of now, moving at a pretty fast pace, you can just clearly see now there's no traffic at all, but slightly as you leave the roundabout going to the estates that ply Thika Superhighway. On the other lane, so moving at a pretty fast pace. This is on both lanes. So again, if you are coming from Roysambu, coming to the city center, this is just the best time for you to do that. Now, there's also another road I want, before we continue looking on more of what is happening on Thika Superhighway. There's this one road, one sleep road I want us to look at. This is the Kasarani Mwiki Road. It branches off from the Roysambu roundabout. And the reason why I want us to look at this road is because, remember, earlier this year, this is one of those roads that was really... There was so much tussle because of the kind of road that this was. You can remember the ongoing protest between the residents of Kasarani Mwiki and the police because of the impassable road that was Kasarani Mwiki, that also resulted to a number of death cases of residents in this specific area, because especially during the rainy times, this road was really impassable. The potholes were quite unbearable. But as of now, with what I'm spotting on Kasarani Mwiki Road, all green on both lanes, and I can imagine that at least the county government did something in regards to repairing, in regards to reconstructing of this road. Remember, they had mentioned that they were going to recarpet it, at least to make it more passable for pedestrians who use Thika Superhighway, and most specifically for those that use Kasarani Mwiki Road as you go about any of your businesses. So as of now, again, if you're coming from Kasarani, if you're coming from Wiki, using the Roysambu roundabout, this is also the best time for you to do that, because there's no traffic at all, moving at a pretty fast pace. So that is also just next to the Roysambu roundabout. But next to Safari Park flyover, that's next to Safari Park Hotel, traffic also begins to slightly build up there. Again, also this is a flyover. Remember, like I keep mentioning to you, in places where is either a bus terminus, in places where it is next to shopping malls, large-scale businesses, roundabouts, or flyovers, this is what we normally expect to see. It is what is happening around Roysambu roundabout is a bit different, but next to Safari Park flyover, traffic just slightly beginning to slightly build up, but also moving at a pretty fast pace. In as much as yes, there's traffic, but it is also quite manageable. That's next to Safari Park Hotel. So more of what I'm seeing this morning on Thika Superhighway is at least the road is really, at least there's no traffic at all, moving at a pretty fast pace. Also next to Roasters, no traffic at all, moving at a fast pace. This is on both lanes, because we would expect to see traffic since people have gone back to their businesses. People are going slightly back to normal. People are going back to their workstation. So in this morning hour, we would have expected to see more of the traffic on these specific areas. But at least as of now, moving at a pretty pretty fast pace. I had also spotted a bit of traffic next to Garden City Mall, especially as you come to the city center, and also when you leave the CBD going all the way to the estates as well as the outskirts of Nairobi. Remember, like I said earlier on when we were beginning, is the Thika Superhighway just doesn't serve the estates that ply these routes, and these are estates like Kasarani, Mwiki, Githurai, Rostas, Roysambu, and the estates that ply this route. It also serves people that come from the outskirts of Nairobi, I mean different counties like Kiambu, if I may mention. And so this is why this becomes one of those busy highway. Probably in the next link-up segment, when you look at matters traffic, I'll be giving you alternative routes if we spot much traffic build-up.
Well, a very good morning to you. You're watching Channel 1. My name is Fiona Shiru, and I'll be bringing you the Good Morning Kenya news briefs. Only today we'll do it a little bit different. We'll have to discuss what is going on the newspaper as we refer to the news that we have compiled from the newsroom. I'll be tackling the star. Well, my other colleagues will introduce what they'll be doing, but please do stay tuned and continue communicating to us through social media. I've already gotten feedback from Douglas Oriero, Musukunya, and thank you very much. Please continue with your feedback on social media at KBC Channel 1 at Fiona Shiru.
And as always, we'll be looking in the headlines. And one of the newspapers this morning, we have Uhuruto's Tommy divorce. We'll be finding out more about that. Remember, this is in regards to what happened yesterday. We had a PG meeting, and we have two senators from Jubilee Party who are now outgoing. That is Senator Kipchumba Murkomen and Senator Susan Kihika, who have been replaced by Senator Samuel Pogisio and Senator Irungu Kangata, respectively. In the headlines coming up in a bit, remember we are live on Facebook, on our website at www.kbc.co.ke, and on YouTube. So keep around for that. Sure, you're going to be able to give us more feedback in regards to this and all the stories that we have in store for you, including COVID-19.
Let's start with the numbers, seeing how the numbers are growing in different parts of the country. But as of now, we stand at 4,255,942 confirmed cases. This is across the globe. That is where we stand in terms of confirmed cases of coronavirus. The death cases stand at 287,332, while recovery stands at 1,527,496. Now, just before we go to how other countries are faring on in terms of these numbers, let's just take a bit on the global numbers. Looking at these numbers of 4.2 million confirmed cases across the globe, and you compare that to the number of death cases, at least, again, I keep mentioning a ray of hope, because the death cases stand at 287,000 plus, while the recovery cases stand at 1.5 million. So at least people can still recover from this disease. It is not a death sentence if at all you contract the coronavirus, because just from what you're seeing in terms of recoveries, significant number of persons have recovered from this infection. So looking at the currently infected patients, this is at 2,441,114. These are the currently infected patients, which amounts to, in those that have mild condition of this disease, standing at 2,394,178, which amounts to 98%, while those with serious or critical conditions standing at 46,936, which is 2%. Again, just looking at those numbers in terms of those that are having mild condition and those that are having serious condition, you can just rightly get it that this is not a death sentence. So when you contract the coronavirus disease, it doesn't mean that that is the end of you. You can still recover, you can still have the mild condition. So that means it's not as serious as, yes, it is a serious case we are grappling with as a globe, but it is not a death sentence. Now, looking at how different countries are faring on in terms of coronavirus, I mean, in terms of numbers of this disease, looking at countries in Europe, seeing how they are faring, and this morning, US still tops the list. This has been the case, at least for the past couple of weeks. So standing at 1,385,000 834, still at 1 million. And like I told you yesterday, is that the US President Donald Trump attributed this number to the fact that they have been doing mass testing, and this is why they have gotten these high numbers. So when it comes to death cases in US, it stands at 81,795. And again, the number of recoveries surpassing the number of death cases in this specific country, which stands at 262,225, and those with active cases at 1 million. So those are the ones with active cases. Now coming to Spain, this is in terms of confirmed cases, 268,143. You can just look at the difference between US and Spain, because there was a time where we were looking at US and where we were looking at Spain and Italy as the countries with the highest number of confirmed cases in Europe, but as of now, US surpasses these two countries. When it comes to death cases, Spain has 26,744 and total recoveries standing at 177,846. Again, also, the number of recoveries surpassing the number of death cases. That's why I had mentioned this is not a death sentence. Now, Italy, at least the number of confirmed cases in Italy have sort of reduced, because after Spain, there's UK and Russia. Initially, we are seeing that US topped the list, followed by Spain and followed by Italy. But as of today, it is US, followed by Spain, followed by UK, Russia, then Italy. So let's see how Italy is doing in terms of numbers. Italy as of now stands at 219,814 confirmed cases, while the number of death cases at 30,739, and the number of recoveries at 106,587. I want us to look at how the African continent is doing in terms of these cases. But before we get to do that, let's just look at the difference in terms of death cases. This is between Spain and Italy. Well, Spain has 26,000 death cases, 26,744 death cases, while Italy has 30,739. Yet, the number of confirmed cases in Spain surpasses the number of confirmed cases in Italy, but the number of death cases in Italy surpasses the number of death cases in Spain. So ultimately, this means that yes, in as much as the country may have recorded so many deaths, so many confirmed cases, it doesn't rightly translate to the number of death cases. So yes, a country may have probably 1 million or 100,000 confirmed cases, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the number of death cases will be at par as the number of confirmed cases. And this is just what we are spotting between Spain and Italy. And that's why when you come back down to our country, the Ministry of Health has rightly insisted that people need to get tested. Testing is important. So coming down to Africa, South Africa still tops the list in terms of confirmed cases here in the African continent, with over 10,000 cases, which is at 10,652 confirmed cases, with a number of death cases standing at 206, while the recovery cases standing at 4,357. Egypt again still coming at number second in African continent in terms of confirmed cases, with 9,746 confirmed cases and the number of death cases over 500. Again, this is like the same case scenario we were looking at when we are comparing between Spain and Italy. It is the same case scenario between South Africa and Egypt, because from what you're looking at in this number, South Africa has high number of confirmed cases, but when you come to death cases, it is 200 plus death cases. When you come down to Egypt, the number of confirmed cases are minimal compared to South Africa, yet the number of death cases in this specific country are more compared to South Africa, because as of now, Egypt stands at 533 death cases, with a number of recoveries at 2,172, leaving active cases at 7,041. So coming down to Morocco, which is the third country in the African continent in terms of confirmed cases, which is at 6,281. So let's just come down to see how our country is doing. Yesterday, there were 28 more confirmed cases, which brought the number of confirmed cases in the country to 700. So as a country, we have hit the 700 mark. As of now, we stand at 33 total death cases, and the total number of recoveries at 251. Just the other day, we recorded the highest number of total recoveries in the country, which again ultimately means that it is not quite a death sentence. But yes, in as much as this disease has reached the community level, I also want just to say that the reason why we're also hitting high numbers is because at least testing is being done. Remember that the government rolled out random testing in the places that were being regarded as hotspots. This is in both Nairobi and Mombasa County, which are the two epicenters of this disease, and specifically in Old Town Mombasa and Eastleigh in Nairobi. And also this is what saw these two areas in these two specific counties movement to be restricted because, again, of the high numbers that are being recorded in these two areas. And the reason why also these high numbers are being recorded in these two areas is because testing was being done. So for us to hit the 700 mark, well, it's because also testing is being done in different parts of the country. So yeah, in terms of active cases, we now stand at 416 active cases with only one serious critical case. So again, with one serious critical case, at least also a ray of hope, because it does not mean that, yes, the disease will pin you down per se, because when you look at these numbers, we can clearly spot the number of recoveries also just continuously rising. And when you look at the difference between the number of death cases with the number of recovery cases, you can clearly see that the number of recovery cases surpasses the number of death cases. So that's that in terms of numbers this morning.
Speaking of numbers, let's head over to the Daily Nation and the Standard newspaper to be able to look at what is in the headlines. That is the Standard, the front page. Uhuruto's stormy divorce taking charge. What started as a talk of a cold war between the two Jubilee supremos has developed into a bare-knuckle fight that culminated in Uhuru announcing a leadership change in the Senate yesterday. Next stop is National Assembly. So these are the changes that took place yesterday. Still, on the front page, we have Day of Drama protest. That is on the front page. Pictures of 4 senators, 2 on the left and 2 on the right. And the 2 who are on the right are the outgoing senators. We have Senate Majority Leader Kipchumba Murkomen and Senate Majority Whip Susan Kihika. And towards the left, we have the incoming senators, where we have Senator Samuel Pogisio and Senator Irungu Kangata. So the day of drama or protest, Ruto skips key Jubilee meeting at State House. Reports say he was at Nairobi Karen residence. DP allies Murkomen and Kihika kicked out of Senate posts replaced by Pogisio and Kangata. Topple leaders hit back, claim Uhuru's communication on changes was null and void. And Ruto is mum on changes, but defiant allies vow to fight for space in party they co-founded. So, still on the front page at the top, we have a Treasury CS Kuru Iatani's COVID-19 dilemma. Pictured in there on that front page, we have an image of the CS, the dilemma on COVID-19 by Ukuru Yatani. Remember, he is a Treasury CS. There has been a lot of discussions in regards to where the economy is standing as at now. The Kenyan economy. Will we recover? We'll be dispensing on that in a bit. But still on the front page of the Standard newspaper, we have at the bottom, creative Kenyans' ideas to combat coronavirus. Will they see light of day? State agencies challenged to ensure realization of devices as creative Kenyans give their all to fill void. Coronavirus numbers, that is according to this, the statistics given there, 700, that is the total number of coronavirus positive cases in the country. And still at the bottom right, we have European football leagues prepared to restart the game. Different speeds. Following enforced coronavirus break, screening tests reveal cases of COVID-19 in the different leagues. Authorities now mum. How will it go? Now let me go to the front page of the Daily Nation, all right, and get to see what's on the Daily Nation this morning. And we have a similar story on the DP and what happened yesterday. On the front page, how Uhuru cooked Ruto's goose. That's the splash. As predicted by the Nation, President Kenyatta moved to decapitate Deputy President William Ruto's influence in the Senate by replacing allies Kipchumba Murkomen and Susan Kihika. But they don't go without a fight. And also pictured there we have on the bottom right, Samuel Pogisio, named leader of Majority, and Irungu Kangata, that's named Majority Whip. On the front page, at the top, sick is a question. You'll soon have to take COVID-19 test before admission. To protect health workers and prevent the spread of unknown infections, Health Ministry will require hospitals to test all patients ahead of admission. Still on the front page, Fortune and Fame fights for the Mugos. With property spread across the North Rift, the Mugos are among the wealthiest families in the country. And like other billionaires, sharing of property is their weakness. That's the front page of the Standard newspaper. And at the bottom left, malaria weapon. Discovery of a blocking bug could be a game changer in the war against the killer disease. Remember, we have so many diseases as at now that we are forgetting to address. The WHO yesterday spoke about this, that yes, so many diseases need to be looked into, even as we are looking into the fight against the coronavirus. Malaria weapon. Discovery of a blocking bug could be a game changer in the war against the killer disease.
At what is happening on the Star, the first page, the front page says 22 pro-DP Ruto senators reject Uhuru changes. State House spokesperson Kanzadina announced resolution after a meeting chaired by Kenyatta. She said 20 senators attended. Right? 22 pro-DP Ruto senators reject Uhuru changes. On the page where they cover the story, we have former Senator Majority Leader Kipchumba Murkomen and former Senate Majority Whip Susan Kihika during a press conference in Parliament. They are seen walking together discussing with face masks. But what exactly is said on the story? I'll pick a line, how Uhuru plotted a coup against Ruto. Led by Murkomen and Kihika, the senators dismissed the changes announced by State House as null and void. Led by Murkomen and Kihika, the senators dismissed the changes announced by State House as null and void. To the president, we cannot lead the country through forgery. You cannot forge the signatures of our colleagues. And that is Murkomen. You could have a look at what they're saying on the Star. They've even plotted out some of the senators in terms of who's supporting Uhuru and Ruto on a really good diagram. You could have a look at that. And to bring the issue home, we do have a report from the newsroom about Jubilee Senate changes, right? Political wrangles. It was done by Edward Kabasa. Political wrangles in the ruling Jubilee Party took another turn after 20 senators voted to remove Kipchumba Murkomen and Susan Kihika as Majority Leader and Whip, respectively. A Jubilee parliamentary group meeting at State House, Nairobi, settled on West Pokot County Senator Samuel Pogiso and his Murang'a counterpart Irungu Kangata as the duo replacement. The changes have, however, drawn mixed reactions from a section of senators, with those opposing terming the move as null and void, as the changes are not anchored in the party's constitution nor the Senate standing orders. That is what our reporter Edward Kabasa had to say about that issue yesterday.
Succession politics in the ruling Jubilee Party appear to have claimed its first high-ranking casualties in Parliament. A Jubilee parliamentary group meeting at State House, Nairobi, chaired by President Uhuru Kenyatta and attended by 20 senators from the Jubilee Party and Kenya National Union KANU, resolved to relieve Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen and his Nakuru counterpart Susan Kihika of their roles within the Senate leadership. West Pokot Senator Samuel Pogisho has been named the new Senate Majority Leader, replacing Murkomen. He will be deputized by Fatuma Dulo Hassan of Isiolo County. Murang'a Senator Irungu Kang'ata was elevated to the position of Majority Whip from Deputy Majority Whip, replacing Nakuru Senator Susan Kihika. Nominated Senator Faria Ali Haji is the new Deputy Majority Whip.
Any holder of an office should know that that office comes with expectations, and it also comes with respect. The previous holders of those offices, absolutely they had no respect. They even had no vision. I believe they had no vision that we as Jubilee believe in, because most of the time you would see them contradicting the party position.
Murkomen and Kihika are however defiant, vowing to stay put, arguing that the changes are illegal.
Tumekubaliana kama wanajubilee 22 kati ya wale ambao ni wanajubilee 35 ya kwamba wale ambao hatukuhudhuria hiyo mkutano, ambao mkutano hatukuitwa na hatukuambiwa kuna agenda ya kutoa mtu yoyote. Sisi maseneta 22 tumeandikia spika wa seneti tukaambia ya kwamba hatukuhudhuria mkutano wowote na hatutasupport chochote ambaye ya kuondoa watu.
And like somebody said, these are not things that you just do that way, and we must follow the law. So what we are saying, going forward, it is null and void whatever they purport to have done this morning.
Political analyst Martin Andati further terms the changes as a response to the ongoing defiance against the presidency by a section of Jubilee Party leaders allied to the deputy president.
The president is basically telling the Tanga group that he's still the boss. There can only be one boss at a time, you know. So the message is very clear that they either shape up or ship out.
The changes come days after the Jubilee Party entered into a post-election coalition with KANU and another alliance with Wiper Democratic Party said to be in the offing. For Channel 1 News, I am Edward Kabasa.
People's Daily, that story again has also been written on the People's Daily. On the front page, it's all over. President Kenyatta yesterday kicked his deputy, William Ruto's loyalists from Senate leadership, firmly taking charge with a new team led by KANU's Samuel Pogisho and sending his Jubilee partner back to the drawing board. What next for the DP as the head of state appears destined to reorganize his government? This is a story that only time will tell. On the sidebar, the men at heart of Jubilee troubles, alliances between opposition chief Raila Odinga and KANU chairman Gideon Moi, sessions to Kenya's political giants, catalyze a split in the ruling party outfit. There's also images of the two that are supposed to come in, Majority Leader Samuel Pogisho, Majority Whip Farhia Ali Haji, and the two that are getting out. This is the former Majority Leader Kipchumba Murkomen and Majority Whip Susan Kihika. There's also COVID-19. Focus turns to borders as infections hit 700. As of now, we stand at 700 confirmed cases with 251 recoveries and 33 deaths. This is after 28 more persons tested positive in the last 24 hours. So the samples that have been tested so far in Kenya is over 32,000 samples so far. So just slightly coming in to this story that again has really been well spelled out in both papers. Uhuru Ruto political union now in tatters, where the president kicks out allies of the DP from key Senate leadership posts amid KANU Jubilee alliance. So what next for the Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen with his Nakuru counterpart Susan Kihika? Again, only time will tell. What next for these two leaders who are the Majority Leader and Majority Whip? There's also a caption here, how Raila helped create Uhuru Ruto Pact ahead of 2013 elections. So this just significantly tells us the roles that the opposition leader Raila Odinga played in terms of creating the Uhuru Ruto Pact. This was ahead of the 2013 election. So what kind of role did he play? That article as well spelled out that.
All right, now coming back to the Standard newspaper, we have a story on the coronavirus pandemic. All right, here it is now. Creative Kenyans develop ideas to combat pandemic. Remember, this is what I had highlighted on earlier. Creative Kenyans develop ideas to combat pandemic. At least 6 local manufacturers have so far submitted prototype ventilators to the Kenya Bureau of Standards. KIPI advises innovators to register their work before disclosing them to anyone to protect them from theft. We have ventilators and contact tracing applications that are among innovations that Kenyans have submitted to government agencies for certification to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. We have at least 6 manufacturers who have so far submitted prototype ventilators to the Kenya Bureau of Standards, even as the body releases specifications for these and personal protective equipment, PPEs, being manufactured locally. Now we have the automated hand washer that is there. Contact tracing app is also there. And we have also JQuat's automated hand washing machine also highlighted there. Now pictured in, we have Kenyatta University student Fidel Makatia, who conducts a demo of a prototype ventilator. Innovations Kenyans are coming up with. Creative Kenyans develop ideas to combat the COVID-19. These are what gives us a ray of hope in regards to how far we are. All right, so that is in regards to the KU ventilator, the Kenyatta University students and what they are. But still on that story of this, remember we have the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, who has also invented a ventilator dubbed Pumwaishi 2.0. 75% of the material needed to manufacture this ventilator is locally available. Therefore, more capacity to produce this ventilator on a large scale of about 3,000 to 5,000 per month. That is according to the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, Phyllis Wakiaga. That's what she says in regards to that. But now speaking to the Standard ICT CS, Joe Musheru said, for instance, that they have been approached with 50 contact tracing apps. How innovative is that?
Well, looking at the story on KU ventilators, I'll read what was reported yesterday on the news server on my phone, right? The government has analyzed 5 prototypes of locally developed ventilators in an initiative expected to combat the coronavirus pandemic. Industrialization Cabinet Secretary, that is Betty Minor, as the ministry will also support local initiatives to produce personal protective equipment for frontline staff and medical gadgets that will boost the fight against the pandemic. Have a look.
The University of Technology now joins the list of researchers working round the clock in developing ventilators set to undergo certification before being availed in hospitals to boost the fight against COVID-19. The university, in collaboration with the Laikipia County Government, presented the prototype to the Industrialization Ministry for review.
We now have about 5 potential prototypes in the country for ventilators, which is exciting for us as a country that we can venture into this new field in a very, very short time. And government is very excited by this, and also giving all the necessary support to the industry to be able to produce.
Dedan Kimathi University Deputy Vice Chancellor Professor Ndirango Kioni said local production of ventilators will enhance the survival chances of patients in critical condition.
What we are engaged in is an industrial process, and that means that we have to have many different players. We have to get the materials, different materials. Some of them are available in the country, others are not available in the country. So for the time being, we have to import. But we are also exploring how we can increase our capacity in the country to manufacture what we are currently importing.
The 2 institutions have already agreed on the basic standards for ventilators with the Kenya Bureau of Standards and Kenya Poisons and Pharmacy Board.
We've committed that once they finalize the ventilator, the county government will actually purchase 10 of the ventilators that they will produce Number two, we've already committed ourselves as a county government to co-fund the research and the development of whatever ventilator that will come up with in conjunction with Dedan Kimathi.
Ben Chumba, reporting for Channel 1 News.
Well, moving on to other stories that have been covered on the Star, right? We'll start with the Star survey to break the ice. Should parents pay full fees for online lessons? That is today's survey. Yesterday's survey was, as a parent, are you getting value for your child's e-learning, right? 87% say no, but 13% say yes. That as a parent, are you getting value for your child's e-learning? 87 say no, and 13% say yes. Still on the Star, I would like to have a look at the cartoon that has highlighted, has made a light joke about KANU and the wrangles that are happening in Jubilee. KANU, believe this, right? On the page is 4 politicians in onesies getting in one bed. And it's a bit comical. I think we have Gideon Moi and Ruto. I can't tell who the others are. But you could have a look and see what that is. It's a nice icebreaker. And yeah, you could get a lot from that. Still on what is happening on the Star. Quadruplets, a double blessing for couple who lost 2 kids. The journey ahead will be hard, but we're up to the challenge. So there's a story there of quadruplets, a double blessing for couple who lost 2 kids. If you're into humanitarian stories and want to have a feel of what is going on with other people around the country, that is a good story to have a look at. Still on what is happening on the Star, I'll read a nice story about flower farms, right? Lake Naivasha reclaims territory. Flooded flower farms owners count losses. Yes, tens of flower farms in Naivasha are counting losses, running into millions of shillings after their farms were hit by floods. Doreen?
All right, so looking at matters coronavirus this morning, and the caption here reads that state rising cases at border points now cause for worry. So ministry cites porous entry points which are difficult to monitor as one of the country's weak points, where the government yesterday expressed concern that international areas are becoming the new weak links in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic, even as the numbers rose to 700 yesterday. So this was mentioned yesterday by the health CAS, Rashid Ramn, that he cited long and porous borders which are difficult to monitor some of the countries most affected, with some of the positive cases involving people who have sneaked to neighboring countries and back. So he cites that those that have sneaked back to the country using the border points, now that becomes one of the weakest link in containing this disease. So of particular concern are the Kenya-Somalia and Kenya-Tanzania borders, where more positive cases have lately emerged. So that was mentioned yesterday by the CAS Rashid Ramn. Also, we have a map just showing us where we stand as a country. I've already spelled out that for you earlier on, and also showing the areas that cases have been confirmed in this country in terms of counties. So not just the 2 epicenters, which is Nairobi and Mombasa, but also showing us how different counties are faring on in terms of these numbers. So in terms of age distribution, this is around 410 cases between 30 to 59 years, 115 cases between 15 to 29 years, and 60 cases above 60 years. So these are the numbers in terms of age distribution of this disease. There's also a story here of Eastleigh residents wanting food after the restriction of movement was announced in that area, where Eastleigh residents yesterday took to the streets protesting the directive to lock down the area for 15 days and demanding the government supplies them with relief food. Let me just read a statement from one of the residents there, where he said yesterday he mentioned, "We cannot move out. Our children will die of hunger. What do they expect us to do? Matiangish will come here and supply relief food." So this is a statement that was said yesterday by one of the residents there, saying that they need food in as much as, yes, the restriction of movement is there, they cannot move out, they cannot come in. So how are they supposed to get food. And also keep in mind that a good number of Kenyans are saying that it is better to die of the disease than of hunger. So Kenyans really grappling with hunger issues and with food. Now, let me come to a story that has also been written on the KBC website this morning. This is in regards to the appointment of the new Chief of Defense Forces. So this is the image of General Robert Kibochi, who was sworn in as the new chief of Kenya Defense Forces by the president. He takes over from Mwatate. And also this story is in the papers this morning. Let's just see how that has been written in the papers this morning. This is in regard to the new chief of Defense Forces. We have a caption here that reads, distinctly defined in tray for new CDF. So it says that General Kibochi to oversee transfer of power from President Kenyatta in 2022 as withdrawal of troops from Somalia and Al-Shabaab remain crucial, where the new Chief of Defense Forces, General Kibochi, who assumed office yesterday, has full entry spilling over with a magnitude of voluminous assignments to be completed and others to be started. So Kibochi was sworn in at State House, Nairobi, yesterday afternoon in an event witnessed by the president himself. So previously, Kibochi, who was he was sworn in yesterday in where the event was witnessed by President Kenyatta, and he took over from Samson Mwatate. So Kibochi becomes the new head CDF, that is the Chief Defense Forces. He takes over from Samuel Mwatate.
Here we have Kibochi takes over as new head of Kenya's military. President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday witnessed the swearing in of General Robert Kariuki Kibochi as the new chair of the Kenya Defense Forces. And according to the head of state speaking during the ceremony at State House, President Kenyatta commended the KDF for upholding merit and professionalism, which he said has enabled the institution to have a predictable and stable career management system for its officers, servicemen, and women, saying the established military succession system and underscores the value of rules and procedures. The president called on other government institutions to emulate the standard as the best practice.
With security, I'll have a look at what the Star has said about police brutality. Cop alleged to have killed Mathare resident charged. A police officer alleged to have shot dead a young man in Mathare during curfew has been charged with murder. Another one is suspected killer of Pamoja FM presenter, remanded for 9 days to allow a probe. The High Court has allowed police to hold for 9 days a man suspected of killing Pamoja FM journalist Mohammed Hassan on Monday. To hone in on issues of security, we do have a photo story on the Star about the swearing in of the new chief KDF. We have President Uhuru Kenyatta. The new chief is saluting him. Looks very official and is proper handing over. I'll read what our reporter had to say about this. General Robert Kibochi has formally taken charge as chief of the Kenya Defense Forces. General Kibochi took oath of office at State House, Nairobi, in a ceremony witnessed by President Uhuru Kenyatta. He replaces General Samson Mwatate, who retired after serving for 5 years.
Robert Kariuki Kibochi, Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, do swear in the name of the Almighty.
General Robert Kibochi, who previously served as the Vice Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, has begun his term in office as Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces on Monday. President Uhuru Kenyatta, who witnessed his swearing in at State House, commended the KDF for upholding merit and professionalism, which have in turn enabled the institution to have a predictable and stable career management system for its officers, servicemen, and women.
I commend you, Waziri, and your Ministry of Defense team for ensuring a seamless transition. And I believe that this signals our maturity in our governance credentials and a strong belief in civil transfer of power as has been envisioned by our Constitution. It also, I believe, too, underscores the value of established rules and procedures. In the KDF, a tradition has been established where merit and professionalism combine to produce a predictable and stable career management system for all its officers, servicemen, and women. And I congratulate you all for this and urge you to continue preserving these very strong credentials.
The head of state exuded confidence that with commitment and determination, the new military top brass led by General Kibochi will protect and defend the territorial integrity of Kenya, even as the country deals with modern security challenges and other natural occurrences.
Joining your colleagues in the Air Force and the Army, taking the mantle of leadership at the KDF at a time when the country, our region, and the world is confronted by a number of threats and risks. And apart from those that we are used to, such as terrorist threats, we are also confronted with COVID-19, we have floods, we also have locust invasions, amongst others.
President Kenyatta at the same time thanked General Kibochi's predecessor, General Samson Mwadhedhe, for his exemplary service, lauding his selflessness, loyalty and dedication.
Asante, General Mwadhedhe, and to you, General Kibochi, Levi Mugala, General Mutai, twende kazi.
And as part of their contribution to the national fight against coronavirus, Kenya Defence Forces donated 102 million shillings to the Kenya COVID-19 Fund, money raised from voluntary salary cuts within the military. Betty Kiptum, Channel 1 News.
Now let's over to the world news and find out what's happening in other parts of Africa and the world at large. And I would like to head over to Mali, where we have 3 UN troops killed in Mali. We have 4 Canadian peacekeepers seriously wounded by roadside bomb. And pictured in there we have soldiers lined up for a convoy with hearses transporting the bodies of 2 soldiers of France's Foreign Legion from the Operation Bahane force killed in Mali on May 7th on Sunday. 3 UN troops were killed and the 4 more wounded when their convoy hit a roadside bomb. So, in this story, the 3 UN troops were killed and 4 more wounded when their convoy hit a roadside bomb early Sunday. Officials said that in the latest violence, in the latest violence to hit the war-torn West African state. And according to the UN chief Antonio Guterres, he condemned the attack and called on the perpetrators to be brought to justice. Chadian peacekeepers were on a routine patrol and in the north of the country. The UN peacekeepers mission in Mali, known as MINUSMA, said that's what he said in a statement. And according to the UN missions, the UN mission has some 13,000 troops drawn from the several nations deployed across the vast semi-arid country. Mali is struggling to contain an Islamic insurgence that erupted in 2012 and which has claimed thousands of military and civilian lives since. And let me head over to Rwanda and Burundi, where we have the Rwanda Defense Forces said on Sunday there were no casualties when its forces clashed with the Burundian army Friday on a lake in the eastern district of Bugesera. No casualties as Rwanda-Burundi forces clash over fish. The border is a known demarcation line in the middle of Lake Rueru that is easily identifiable using technology like the GPS. That's according to a statement. But this is what the clash took place after a troop of fishermen from Burundi illegally crossed into the Rwandan waters in Lake Rweru. That's according to a statement given by RDF, that is the Rwandan Defense Forces. No casualties as Rwanda-Burundi forces clash over fish. But now in other parts of the world, let me head over to Britain. And headline there, we have confusion rocks Britain after go-to-work advice. Now, there's an announcement that was made by the Prime Minister. And the government has also announced a 14-day quarantine on people arriving by air, except travelers from Ireland and France. Announcement by the Prime Minister Johnson that Britons can resume work has drawn criticism from opposition, Wales and Scotland leaders. Employees, business owners, police and trade unions in Britain expressed confusion yesterday after the government switched from telling workers to stay at home to urging them to return to work, but preferably without getting near other people or using public transport. Confusion rocks Britain after go-to-work advice. What is going to happen next? Well, time will tell.
Before I get to world news, let's look at some other stories making headlines this morning. There's security concerns plague video apps. So this one says that concerns are now being raised over security and privacy breaches in video conferencing applications whose use has soared in the wake of coronavirus pandemic. The security concerns come amid increasing shifts to working online and virtual socializing patterns in a bid to embrace social distancing due to the disease, whose number of cases is on the rise. But as use of video conferencing platforms such as Zoom escalates, so have the security concerns. This is in terms of data as well as privacy. Concerns being raised even as people are using most of these video apps because, well, people are working from home and a significant number of things are being done from home. So security concerns are rising as a result of using such platforms. Now, to also an interesting story, remember the 100 million that was supposed to be given to the artists? And while some artists are also mentioning that they've not gotten any single cent from this money. So, Amina, lazy artists to lose out on 100 million shillings corona kitty. Again, I will read that again. Lazy artists to lose on this money. So what makes one to be a lazy artist? So artists, musicians and actors will not sit pretty and expect to benefit from the government's 100 million Kenya shilling stimulus package. While launching the kitty yesterday in Nairobi, Sports, Culture and Heritage CES, Amina Mohammed pictured in there, said those expecting to benefit from this package will be required take note of this, will be required to produce content that relates to COVID-19 and domestic violence. So ultimately, this means for you to be able to get part of this money as an artist, as a musician, your content has to be related to COVID-19 and domestic violence, which are the issues that we are grappling with at this time. So this is what more of what Amina had to say. She said that the beneficiaries will be expected to compose and produce works that entertain and educate Kenyans and the world on safety and the health precautions to stop the spread of COVID-19. So your content has to be related to COVID-19, to do with matters of domestic violence, and that content, not only just in terms of educative, but it also has to be entertaining. So it looks like Kenyan artists, musicians have a lot of work if at all they have to get part of this money that was given by the president to cushion musicians and people in the arts industry. Now, coming to world news. So cheers and tears as children in Europe go back to school. Strict measures in place to prevent a second wave of the pandemic as wider lockdown protocol eased, where image of children there, probably with their teachers and even parents or guardians, and excited children greeted their friends, and wary parents got used to early start again as schools in several European countries reopened after a nearly 2-month coronavirus break. So in Europe, at least, schools are now reopening.
Well, before we have a look at the star, you mentioned Amina talking about the fund, 100 million shilling fund, right? What do you guys think about that when we're being told artists to create content for COVID-19?
Well, let me go first. When this money was given to artists, it was supposed to protect artists.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you know, remember, and also Ramn, we were having this discussion yesterday where we are saying that for most musicians, for most artists, painters, drawers, they normally rely on these gatherings to do any of their activities. When you look at people in the music industry, it has to be like a show for them to at least make money. But that has been banned because gatherings have been banned. So for the CS to come and say that you have to have content that is surrounding matters coronavirus,
right?
yeah, matters coronavirus and domestic violence, then what happens to those artists that have really been doing a lot of work and we know them for their work and they're supposed to get this money to protect them, but because they do not have this kind of content, then it becomes difficult for them. I'm just wondering, like, what happens to this artists?
I saw, I did a story a few days ago about a concert, a free concert that was done through Zoom, and it was funded by all these organizations. I feel there are different ways of approaching it in terms of content, because of artists. You don't rush an artist, you know. There's a sensitive way of approaching it, but I do think I've seen news clips where various artists have come up with Corona songs, but are they world hitters? Like, are they good content? You know, and when we talk about artists, could we be
or they're just making it for the sake of making it? I don't know what Ramn thinks about this.
I don't think a musician is just the only artist, that there could be maybe a painter, or what do you think, Ramn?
Nothing to say, you say nothing. If you have no content, produce nothing. If you have nothing to produce, produce nothing. When it comes to artists and content, this has been a debate that has been going on for a long time. And I support the measures that have been put into place, because right now we need awareness. We need artists to come together and create. Okay, let me remind us. Do you remember this song? We Are the World.
Yeah. By various artists.
Yes.
All artists came and did one song, yeah?
Yeah. Exactly.
We are the world.
They should do something like that, right?
Yeah. Why can't our Kenyan artists also come and do one song in solidarity concerning coronavirus?
Yeah, that would be really nice. Today there is a press conference that I will be attending for the, it's called the PRICK, the organizations, collective management organizations that support local artists. I'll be sure to be asking a few questions that will be relevant in terms of bringing back the story back to the artists to hear what exactly they have to say. Well, on matters to do still with the newspaper, let's have a look at universities. You talked about education still. Let me just focus on that. Universities hope to reopen in September. Public universities hope to resume in September after the institution's calendar entered long holiday period that runs for 3 months. So students will not be graduating this year. Is that what we're saying? I wonder how students have to feel about this. I wonder how students, what do you guys think about universities opening in September?
Okay, in terms of students opening in September until it's safe. But let's come to matters traffic this morning. Remember earlier on we were looking at what was happening on Thika Super Highway. So let's just briefly look at Garden City, next to Garden City Mall. As of now, traffic moving at a pretty fast pace, no traffic at all. We were really expecting heavy traffic build in this morning hour because ultimately people are going back to their businesses and work centers, and it is the morning rush hour. But clearly as of now, moving at a pretty fast pace. This is at Garden City Mall as you come to the city center, and also on the other lane that is leaving the CBD as you come through the estates and join the estates that ply Thika Super Highway, also moving at a really fast pace. So no traffic at all. If you're coming from Thika Road, coming to the city center, going about your business, or just along Thika Super Highway, this is again the best time for you to do that, because traffic moving at a really fast pace. We are not seeing traffic like how we'd expect to see traffic in the morning hour. Next to that roundabout, on that sleep road that branches up to Roasters, also moving at a really fast pace. No traffic at all. This is one of the estates along Thika Super Highway. There are numerous estates along this highway, and like I mentioned to you earlier also, is that this road just doesn't serve the estates that ply this route, whether you're coming to the CBD or leaving the city center or going about your businesses. Also, it serves residents that come from the outskirts of Nairobi. And this are some of the counties on the outskirts of Nairobi, counties like Kiambu counties, Meru, Embu. So again, it becomes one of those busy roads, not just in the morning hour. You will note that on Thika Super Highway, traffic on rush hour times, but as of now, moving at a really fast pace. Now, there's this the roundabout that branches off to Outer Ring Road, still on Thika Super Highway. That is where traffic, in fact, traffic on this specific area is at a standstill. Remember also, this is one of those places where a reconstruction was happening to ease traffic congestion, because Outer Ring Road becomes the latest highway to be reconstructed in the country, making it an 8-lane, again, to ease congestion. But when you branch off to Thika Super Highway from this Outer Ring Highway, then the traffic in this specific area, which is where we are at now, normally becomes unbearable. So this is why this area had to be reconstructed, at least to just make to have different lanes and an upper side, so to just reduce on the traffic congestion. Because as you branch off coming from Outer Ring Road and joining to Thika Super Highway, or as you leave the city center going all the way to Thika Road, or branching off to this other highway, which is Outer Ring, then the traffic around this specific place normally becomes unbearable. And what we can spot now, it is just that same traffic. Looking at when you branch off to Outer Ring Road on what used to be the Allsops roundabout this morning, in fact, traffic is at a standstill. But also the good thing is that it is only on the lane that is coming to the estates, and also the inner lanes, as well as the other outer lane that is coming from the estates to the city center. Again, that is also one of the reasons why we'd experience traffic in this morning, because on the lanes that are coming to the CBD, it is obvious for us to experience traffic because of the kind of activities as you head to the city center. But on the lane that is leaving, Nairobi Central Business District, or if you may, town, coming to the estates, then on that lane is moving at a pretty fast pace. But also it is only on the outer lanes. I just want to mention to you that on the inner lanes as well as the outer lane, then there's traffic just at a standstill. So that means if you're coming from Outer Ring Road, because like I mentioned to you, this what used to be the Allsops roundabout is also one of those roundabouts that branches off to Outer Ring Road. And again, on major roundabouts, traffic normally looks something like this, just what we are spotting this morning. So that's that on matters traffic this morning, even as we look at Thika Super Highway, as well as just what is happening on Outer Ring Road.
All right, now we shift gears into our first discussion of the day, and this is in regards to real estate and COVID-19 effect on it and property management. Well, as a result of the reduced economic activity and containment measures given by the government during this COVID-19 pandemic, it has resulted into reduced incomes. Various issues relating to real estate sectors have risen in regards to this. This morning we talk about land and real estate. And joining me live is Abraham Samoei, the president of the Institution of Surveyors Kenya. Karibu sana, Mr. Samoei. Thank you very much for finding time to join me this morning.
Thank you, Amos, for having me today.
All right, so this is Ramn. Thank you for coming. And remember, we are live on our Facebook page and our website, so keep tweeting, keep texting if at all you have questions to the president himself. Now, Mr. Samoei, what are your thoughts in regards to the state of the real estate as of now? Because we've had a reduced number of income, especially when it comes to real estate investors. People are questioning, how will we recover? What are your thoughts in regards to that?
The COVID-19 has negatively affected the real estate sector because of reduced economic activity. And this has been brought by restrictions on movement and the increased unemployment due to the reduced activities. So we are seeing a drop in incomes, as you have mentioned, and this affects the consumption and use of real estate. Mm-hmm. This phenomena is affecting both companies and that is occupiers and the investors. So we are likely to see this phenomena continue until pandemic is contained and we are back to normal.
And
as to when we are coming back to normal, it's difficult to tell. What we can do is adapt to the new normal of the world of working to ensure that the effects are minimized. But this is an uncharted territory, and we have to adapt as we get to know the extent of the effect of this pandemic to the real estate sector and all other sectors of the economy.
All right, that's a very interesting opening remark. And before we delve now deeper into this, because we shall be touching in so many aspects in regard to real estate, I would like to first of all start, for the benefit of the viewer and to help us in this discussion, what is the institution of Surveyors Kenya all about?
The Institute of Surveyors is an umbrella professional body bringing together professionals in the land and the property sector. So we have the valuers, the land surveyors, building surveyors, property managers, estate agents, engineering surveyors, all coming together under the umbrella of ISK. Currently, we have about 4,000 members who are practicing across the Republic, and they are in public sector, private sector, in businesses, and all over the country. So we are well represented across the country.
And as you are across the country, when it comes to this COVID-19 pandemic, now in regards to how you're working, how has it affected working relations? Because now we're talking about reduction in revenue or income. How deep is the effect now?
The real estate sector has been affected negatively, and with varying degrees depending on the sector. In the commercial space and residential sectors, we are seeing drop in household incomes and corporate income, business income. That affects their ability to meet their obligations for rental payments. In terms of business, as professionals, we are seeing reduced activity in the sector, and this was made worse by the closure of the Ministry of Lands, where they closed the registries because of containment measures put up by the Ministry of Health, and this has the effect of no transactions are happening, or rather, you are having transactions taking a longer time. So our members are suffering, and members of the public, they are not able to access the registries. But the good thing is the Ministry of Lands has slowly put together a business continuity plan, and we are seeing it being rolled out as of last week. We've been seeing registries are open, although offering minimal services, but that is better than when they were closed a month ago. So we are seeing the sector slowly recovering, and this is made worse by our sector is still manual. I mean, the registries are still manual. Technology is still, we're still to deploy technology to digitize our registries, and this would have helped, especially at this time of the pandemic.
All right, and we have had efforts by City Hall here in Nairobi to revalue land, and this is in an effort to see land rates shoot up. 30% of commercial offices in Nairobi have a first-class rating. Considering that percentage, it is low, and due to this COVID-19 pandemic, buyers might, are opting to go for completed units rather than off-plan developments. Is this tenable? Is this going to work?
Off-plan purchase schemes are usually a sale method where you are giving the buyer a longer payment plan and also a financing option for the developer. So usually a win-win for both parties. You are able to get property at a discount, and you're able to get capital to put up your property. But the challenge has been the developers not meeting their end of the bargain, so not completing projects on time, not offering the quality promised, and at the same time, the buyers not paying as agreed with the developer, occasioning the developer to face cash flow problems to complete the same projects that they had planned. So in terms of how it has worked in this country, I think it cuts both ways, both parties meeting their side of the bargain. And that is why you're having very negative sentiments about off-plan projects. And once you get a bad reputation that off-plan projects are not viable, people will shy off, whereas it's a very good model on which it can benefit both sides.
But now, the real estate industry or the real estate sector has been affected even before the COVID-19 pandemic. Would you say that is true in your view? Because we already had, a bubble burst when some landlords were even advertising 6 months rent, that 6 months was for free. Land issues, real estate issues has been a problem even before COVID-19. Would you agree that now the COVID-19 is just magnifying our previous problems?
Yes, you're right in your position to state so, because real estate is an economic product. So it behaves in the marketplace like any other commodity. When you have supply position greater than demand, you will have the owners trying to entice or encourage the buyers and the renters to get into their properties. And this is across the world. You will have cycles where demand is greater or supply is greater, and they correct itself. What we call a correction happens when there's a mismatch. And what has been happening for the last 2 years has been a correction in the market. We had a boom, yes, and many people are worried that there will be a burst of the bubble, as you put it. But it's a normal market correction. It goes back to a position where you'll also have demand, especially during high economic activity, where you have a higher demand than the supply position, and rents start going up, values start going up, demand for land, development lands start going up. So it's a normal phenomena, and as practitioners, we are not worried. We know it will correct itself, we'll be back to normal. Yeah.
And what are your thoughts in regards to the efforts by City Hall to revalue land here in Nairobi County?
Land rates are charged on land for provision of services. I think Nairobians are agreeable to paying land rates. The challenge they face is commensurate services being offered by City Hall. And we are not seeing trunk services being offered to the level that would encourage ratepayers to pay. Secondly is updating of the rate register. You'll find there are very many landowners who are not paying rates. So before the revaluation and increase of rates, I think everybody should pay their fair share. And you will not have a problem of landowners contesting increase in rates. What we have is land rates for 1985. The values there of land posted there are quite low. There have been attempts to revalue and increase the rates, but the city residents and city landowners have challenged because of concern about the services being offered by City Hall. But with devolution, I think this is likely to be a thing of the past, as we have services being brought closer to the people. So we will not have a big problem of City Hall versus the landowners, so to say.
And would you say that now it is the scrupulous land developers that are bringing us down?
Not really. I think people mistrust developers for no reason. They are like any other business. They bring product to the market, and buyers have the option to choose between various developers. But as you find in emerging economies, you will find there are people who take shortcuts, and those are the people who give the good businessmen in construction and development a bad name. That is what the authorities should clamp down to ensure the sector is clean, the buyers get value for their investment, and that way, as the economy grows, we share in prosperity. But I think you will not miss bad elements, but we cannot demonize the construction sector and developers for a few elements in the sector.
Now, in regards to this, because we are sensing some rotten eggs, I don't know if you say that, some rotten eggs within this sector, because Kenyans are complaining about rent. And at the same time, landowners are also, pushing, having their own, push and pull together with the tenants that they have been able to give their, property to. How can we be able to come into a consensus in this?
I think the consensus comes from the understanding that property investment is like any other business. And once you understand that, you are able to have a conversation on how do I benefit from using the space that I've been offered and paying my rental. We understand that many tenants are suffering the effects of the corona pandemic, and that is affecting their incomes. There are cases of job losses and unemployment, and this only makes it worse for households. The unfortunate bit about real estate or properties, there are no substitutes. You need a house to live in. You need an office to work from. So the point is the tenant to have a discussion with the landlord on how to meet their obligation. One way is a rent deferral. You agree, I'm not able to pay now, but how do I pay in future? The other option is rent waiver. Some landlords are charitable, so to say, and say, I will not charge you rent for a month, for 3 months. In other situations, you may also look at rent discounts. The landlord to consider taking a lower rent, 50%, 70%, so that the tenant can retain occupancy, the business can continue operating, so that when we are out of the pandemic, both parties still need each other. I think that is the spirit. But to say the landlords should have a blanket waiver on rent is a bit unfair on their part.
But now, would you okay, continue or finish with what you're saying. It's unfair on the part of the landlord.
Yes, because you would remember there are very many obligations, and what many people may not know is landlords make 5 to 10% return. So if you look at that, that is less than a month equivalent of rent for the year.
And at the same time, they have loans to pay.
If you take out more than a month of rent not paid, they're already in a loss-making position. And many of properties are owned by insurance companies who have policy holders that they have to pay for retirees and all this. So it's a bit of a challenge that we all have to understand and discuss, so that we come with a win-win situation for both parties.
Now, during this COVID-19 pandemic, things are changing. We can say that the real estate industry is changing. But now, would you say that ready-built houses will be the demand post-COVID-19?
Not really. COVID-19 is affecting ability or affordability of businesses and individuals. So how they purchase may not be affected much. The issue of ready to build off plan is a financing method, so to say. So we'll still continue having those options available in the marketplace because of the advantages that comes with off plan. But ready to build, of course, gives the advantage that you are able to access the property immediately on purchase and take possession. You do not have to wait for a year or more to access. So you will always have businesses and individuals going for ready to build because of the advantage of possession and use that comes immediately on purchase.
Now, you mentioned something earlier on as at the beginning of this conversation, and I would like to touch on that. Digitization. The process of digitization by Land Ministry was supposed to be completed by June this year. June. But based on how things are currently, it doesn't look like it will we will be able to get to that mark because of this pandemic. Would you say that there is a solution? What do you think about that? Is there any solution that we can get in regards to digitization of Lands Ministry and the records that we have so far in the sector?
I'm not aware of any change in the date of completion of digitization process. But in the event that it extends beyond June, and the reasons given because of the pandemic, I think it would be understandable. You would appreciate the social distancing and the restrictions on movement and the curfew are affecting the operations of the ministry. So if they are to ask for more time, 3 months, I think we will not be harsh to say they have delayed, whereas we can see the cause of the delay is beyond their control. Okay. So we are looking forward as a sector to have land records and the ministry digitized. And we hope when we come back to normal after the corona pandemic, we are able to get things moving. If there is a delay for a month or 3 months, I think that would be understandable, and we're able to move on from there.
And do you see this happening? Because it is June. We are now in May. Do you think this process, are we going to be able to meet that deadline that was set by the Ministry of Lands?
It's difficult to tell, as I mentioned, because we've not been given an update on the completion stage. But looking at how normal business have been affected, we cannot preclude the Ministry of Lands. But what we are saying is the efforts they've made, and we've noted that they are very committed to having a digital land registry. We are hopeful that there was a continuity plan to ensure that the interruption from the COVID-19 was kept minimal and did not affect the plan. But in the event that it extends by a few months, I think that would be reasonable to expect in these circumstances. But let's hope for the very best, because they have not said there will be a delay. So it would be speculative on our part to think they would go beyond June.
Now, we have had a closure of land registries. It's now over a month or so. How have you been coping up with that turn of events? The land registries have been closed. How have you been handling your issues? Hello, Mr. Samuel.
Yeah, registries negatively. Yes, I can hear you.
I'm asking in terms of the closure of land registries that has happened for over a month countrywide. How have you been coping with that turn of event?
I think we have been coping like many other Kenyans with the effects of the pandemic. But as I mentioned, the Ministry of Lands is largely manual. And this pandemic has brought forth the need to have all our records in the digital platform.
Digitization.
We would have had a better business plan or continue to plan if we were on a digital platform. So the pandemic has really made it quite obvious that we are running behind on having the registries and the survey of Kenya in the digital platform. But as you asked, we have had challenges in accessing searches, maps, and this affects our ability to offer services to the public. That means transactions are not happening. People are not able to sell, buy land. So there's a huge delay in the sector. Developers are not able to sell or to transact. So there's a sort of a big slowdown in the sector that is also affecting the economy. As you are aware, the real estate sector plays a key role in the economy in terms of its contribution to employment, revenues, incomes, and the closure of the registry has a multiplier effect right from professionals, the government in terms of revenue, and the general public. So we are hoping that the ministry, with a continuity plan, is able to slowly open up the registries and the lands offices so that things can go back to normal and Kenyans can benefit from the investments and professionals can offer services to the Kenyans and the clients they have.
And still on the same breath, how have you been handling your clients and those people who have been coming to ISK for services?
For the past 2-3 weeks, we've had partial openings of the land registries. So what we are having is access, but there is delay. So in terms of getting a search, getting a map, you will not offer services as you were prior to the closure. So clients will be a bit frustrated. They are not able to transact as they would want to. But I think it's out of control of both the client and the professional acting. So we are just having to discuss with clients on having a longer period. I think that has been going well, but you imagine there are frustrations across the table between the professional and the client in terms of delivery times. And what we are saying is, as we have the ministry have a return to work formula to have registries open and the land offices open, we are likely to see that clients are able to access and the professionals are able to offer services. Valuations was the one that was most affected, because for valuations you need a map. You can't go to a site without a map. You cannot prepare a valuation without a search. You need to have a current search from the Ministry of Lands. You need to carry due diligence in terms of inspections and social distancing. You cannot access properties outside the containment areas, and that affects the lending from banks to the economy.
All right, thank you very much. Let's take a short break. Remember, after this break, we'll be back to still talk more about this land and real estate. Remember, the Big Four agenda is still here, and one of the Big Four agenda is affordable housing. How has it been affected by the COVID-19? We're back in a bit. Let's take a short break.
Sorry again about last night.
It happens.
Ilikuwa blanda yangu kupatiana trade secrets zetu kwa mabeshti. But next time, nitapeana recommendation out of town.
I hope utambia place yenye nafikiria. Don't worry. I'm here.
I found out that my father is in Patliputra.
How did you get to know about
Acharya
it?
Chanakya told me, but he is not telling me who.
They killed your grandfather, and they set your hut on fire.
I've learned how to please the authority in order to use the power in my favor.
Acharya Chanakya cannot hide the truth in front of Emperor Bindusar. Do you know who my father is?
Yes.
I must tell the truth to His Highness.
Right, we are back. Remember, we are live on Facebook, on Twitter, and on our website at www.kbc.co.ke. Also on YouTube is where we are live. Keep commenting and keep tweeting, keep texting in regards to this. Remember, we're talking about real estate and lands, how the COVID-19 is affecting the real estate sector, and what are the possible solutions, or rather, what are the possible sustainable solutions that are there. I was joined by Abraham Samoei, the president of the Institution of Surveyors Kenya, giving us his take in regards to this. And let me just sample a few of the messages that I'm receiving so far. I'm seeing on Facebook, Geoffrey Kipkoech is saying, I am with you. Thank you very much, Geoffrey. Florence Kamende Muluya, anasema from Kiambu. Watching from Kiambu, I'm seeing Lanchevin Moyo, and some are watching live from industrial area in Nairobi. All right, let me head over to Twitter, get to see more about what people are saying on the hashtag Good Morning Kenya. Remember, when you tweet, tag me at Ramn Aguko at KBC Channel 1. And the hashtag, as always, is Good Morning Kenya. I'm seeing Rose Maura is also watching from Twitter. Thank you very much, Rose. I'm seeing Sylvester is saying, great work, our president and ISK family. Interesting tweets coming through. I'm seeing one by Natasha is saying, interesting conversation right there with the president. I'm seeing this is Mohammed is saying, watching live from Nakuru. The interesting discussion there. Keep it up. So let me just sample more. I'm seeing one more has just come through here on our Facebook page. I'm seeing this is Damian is saying, good morning. I'm watching live from Elgeyo Marakwet. All right. Thank you very much, Damian. Watching live from Elgeyo Marakwet. Keep your questions coming in and commenting. Where are you watching us from? Will be something, your tweets, as we continue with this morning conversation. Remember, the real estate sector has been affected by the COVID-19. Or at some point, experts come up to and are saying that no, these problems that we're seeing that are in the real estate are just magnified by the COVID-19 or the coronavirus. They have been there in the past. Land owners have been able to even give out their property for free, 6 months for free. Some giving out for 6 months, some giving for 3, some 1, depending on your property, free from rent, just to give you, that trust for you to be able to get value for your money. But it has been struggling in the past, according to some experts. While others are saying that yes, ready-built houses are the ones that people should go for. Others deny that, saying that no, we should not go for ready-built houses. It depends on the off-plan developers that are there. We have some commenting that real estate has been affected by scrupulous developers, thereby bringing it down. The president has been able to give his take in regards to how we can be able to cushion the effects of this pandemic, especially on you, the tenant. He says, that is the president of ISK, Abraham Samwe, he's saying that 1, we can have rent referrals. 2, we can have rent waiver. 3, we can have rent discount. And in all this, do you think they will be able to bring sustainable solutions in the real estate sector? Will they bring sustainable solutions, especially when it comes to property management? Well, these are the questions that we are asking this morning when it comes to the real estate and how it is being affected by the COVID-19. Let's talk about property management. Well, that was before the break, but now we are coming to just dwell more in regards to the Big Four agenda. One of the agenda of the within the Big Four, is affordable housing. How has it been affected? Do you see this as something that is still achievable post-COVID-19? Is the government going to be able to reach the target it set for itself? Remember, the Lands Ministry had set a target of digitization by the end of June. Is that possible? And that is just one example of a target given by government that might or might not be met. Well, time will tell. Well, joining me live is Abraham Samoei, the president of the Institute of Surveyors Kenya, giving us his take in regards to that. So, Abraham, I believe you're good. Before we went for that break, you were giving us your take in regards to Lands Ministry and digitization. But now let's talk about the Big Four agenda. How has this agenda been affected when it comes to the program? Remember, we have the COVID-19 pandemic. It has halted some of this land construction or land developments. In regards to the Big Four agenda, how deep has it been bruised by the coronavirus?
I think the Big Four agenda was already suffering from its own problems before the corona pandemic. Big Four agenda being highly capital intensive required both government support and also private sector capital. And for private sector to join in, they would require sufficient incentives to deploy their capital. In the affordable housing scheme, there were not sufficient incentives to promote private sector investment in residential housing.
Mm-hmm.
So you will still have problems on the Big Four, despite coronavirus not being there. Okay. I don't think it would be fair to blame coronavirus on the Big Four faltering, so to say.
All right, and now that this Big Four agenda is there, in your view, as the president of the ISK, is it achievable, coming in from your own view?
The Big Four agenda was touted as a 5-year plan.
Specifically, the affordable housing.
Yes.
Yes.
It was to be done by the end of the term of the current government, 2022. We have less than 2 years to the end of this term. Residential projects for housing take a year or two to construct, not considering the time it takes approvals and design and whatnot. So if there are no projects going up now,
all right, that is
be, in my view, I don't see the 500,000 units promised being achieved, considering the timeline remaining. And now that we are looking into 2021, 2022, when the political environment will change, that will also affect investment, and people will withhold their capital as they wait to see what comes up after the next government, maybe. So I think we can pick up the conversation on affordable housing maybe after the next government.
All right. Maybe after the next government. Quite interesting there. But now, let me again shift gears into one more thing. Property management. How can you ensure property management during this COVID-19 pandemic?
Property managers have, and landlords have two main responsibilities at this time. To ensure the well-being and the safety of their occupants, and the property managers to ensure that people are paying up. So what property managers are doing is to ensure the protocols or the guidelines provided by the Ministry of Health are followed and adhered to minimize infections in the properties, and they manage. So you are having adaptations to ensure hygiene. You are seeing a lot of people washing hands, sanitizers as you enter buildings. You are seeing also enhanced cleaning of surfaces to ensure that there are no infections. But also at the background, I know property managers are discussing with tenants and landlords on how the issue of rent is met. I'm aware that many landlords are giving discounts, at varying discounts depending on the impacts the business have. Not all businesses are affected equally. The hotel and hospitality is most affected. I think the fortunate bit on their sector is we are seeing the government putting in place mechanisms to have them opened. But other sectors are doing very well. They don't deserve discounts. So you have varying interventions depending on which sector the tenant and the occupant is.
Now, as we bring this discussion to a close now, your final word, what is ISK doing to be able to bring solutions towards these challenges that we are experiencing within these sectors? As you give your final word within a minute or so.
As ISK, first, we come up with policy interventions that we advise the government on what we think they should do in the sector. And one was the engagement of the Ministry of Lands on opening of the registries and providing a continuity plan to ensure that the public and the professionals are able to access the land registries and able to serve the members of the public. Secondly is ensuring that our professionals are advising their clients and tenants and the landlords effectively manage buildings to ensure they are safe and do not give opportunities or instances where infections can happen. So clearly following government protocols in properties and advising landlords on that, and also providing advisory on dealing with emerging issues. And one of the top issues now is rental, how to handle rental and lease obligations.
Yes.
As the lease come to an end, is it suspended? So all those, we've given advisories to our members who are able to guide the sector to ensure that we come out of this pandemic stronger, so to say.
All right. Thank you very much, Abraham Samohei, the president of the I Institution of Surveyors Kenya. It has been a pleasure having you this morning. Thank you very much for finding time to join me.
Thank you.
All right, that has been the president of the Institution of Surveyors Kenya joining us live to give us his take on the effects of COVID-19 on the real estate sector and property management.
Continuing with the day's interview, future of agribusiness is our next discussion. Joining me on set this morning, Wangare Kuria, the owner of Farm on Fire. Thank you so much, Wangare, for making time this morning. All right, so let's start from Farm on Fire. What exactly is Farm on Fire? What does it mean?
It's actually Farm on Fire. It's a YouTube channel that I came with as I was learning a lot about farming. I also wanted to share with other people because we all want to farm. Somewhere deep down, we were brought up in farms.
We all
we are closeted farmers.
So we are like all agriculturalists somewhere, somehow, somewhere.
Yes, but we don't actualize that part of our talent because we feel, that was me, that was my parents. So I thought I could share with people and probably ignite some inspiration. So it's a YouTube channel for education about farming.
Okay, and we'll be getting into that a little bit later. But you were in the corporate world before you moved to farming. Talk to us about that.
Yes, I was a senior management at a real estate firm. I was getting the big bucks, wearing the heels and doing all those things I dreamed of in college.
So you went to gumboots and...
Yes, and skumaing wheelbarrows and all that stuff. Yeah, so I was that. I had an office. I had about 100 people to manage, but then there was a capping of the 14% that affected the real estate industry, and we ended up being retrenched, so many of us. So I had to go back and redesign my life from scratch, and this is what I came up with.
Okay, so in as much as yes, we look into farming, it's not like what was in your mind per se, you actually had a job.
Yes.
Okay, and this happened during this coronavirus pandemic time.
Yes.
So just before we get much deeper, it is a time where people are really losing jobs, and they say at least if you are in a working space, then thank God you're still working.
Yes.
And so many are going and succumbing to depression, but you stood out of all of that and you started something by yourself. Tell us about this whole aspect of, yes, it's a difficult time for us as a country and even for the entire globe in terms of the economy and job losses, but you came out stronger.
Yeah. That's why the theme of fire comes out from the farmer on fire. It's because I had to go through a redefining moment where I had to transform into this person who thinks differently, who sees the world in all its possibilities. I will tell you, it was not easy. I did not choose this because I thought, I've lost that job. I can always apply for a new one.
And you can always
and then I tried, and then I realized, okay, I'm depressed and the sun is still rising every morning. I need to cope and do something. And so I started farming my kitchen garden. And I kept expanding. My neighbors kept saying, we would like to be buying fresh vegetables from you. So I kept expanding, and now I can say I'm a full-fledged farmer. Yes.
Right. So still sticking on that coronavirus issue, because just like I mentioned, people are really losing jobs during this time. And it is difficult because it's not like the employers want to lay off people. It's also they can't. Some cannot even do anything about it.
Yes.
But from someone who was in the corporate world, do you think employers can redesign probably how they look at their employees and come up with better structure so that when such times like this occur, they don't have to resort to laying off and sending some people on paid leaves or on even half salary? Do you feel like they have to restructure?
They could try and empower the employees and even themselves as senior management to know that change is the one thing that is assured in life.
And it will always happen.
Yes, so people should have that flexibility. Yes, you tried farming as a side hustle, selling mitumba clothes as a side hustle, but always know that the reality could be that could become your main source of income. And so it's just being very flexible and not allowing your ego to creep in and you just know yourself as this title. If you're not called manager so-and-so or lecturer, you feel like these people are not appreciating who I am. When you get attached to things, then it's very dangerous. Be flexible, be malleable. Know that life is just about going with the waves, and the wave is bigger than yourself. So just follow it, yes.
It looks like seated in a mentorship class of some sort. But when you say about empowering, what exactly do you mean?
Training, let them know who they are, and let them know they are more than just that job title, that office. Let them know that they could become anything, because if a master's graduate can become a farmer, surely,
you can become anything.
Yes, and then you are born with 100% of everything you need. So whatever you need, that potential in you has not ended just because you don't have a salary. You just have to trap yourself in there and refigure out yourself and come up with something that is generating you income.
Wow, that's interesting. I hope employers are watching and they're seeing what probably they can do for
I
them.
hope they're watching, because I've started a new course for just people who don't know anything. Yes, an online course that just teaches about kitchen gardening, small-time gardening, just where to start the basics of container farming, balcony farming. So, yeah, anyone can do anything.
Okay. I also understand that you are into mentorship.
Yes.
So, yes, in as much as you're into mentorship, which kind of persons do you mentor and how has that been going like for you?
And that's what inspired even my book. The Girl on Fire. I want to pull other people out, because I was in that hole. I was stuck. I was wondering, surely did God put me here, and then I feel I have so much potential for me to just do mediocre stuff. And so I try and mentor school kids, everyone that I meet on the road. I have a YouTube channel also called Girl on Fire, that's specifically for life purpose and just
also you have like separate.
Yes, there are two. That's the power of social media. You can even have 5 channels. Yes, to divide, because as I say, I'm not just a farmer. And if I'm stuck to that title, I will limit myself. I am so many other things and I am nothing anyway. Let me stop. So I mentor, I teach kids on how to do vision boards, how to achieve their goals. Yeah, so I'm big on mentorship, because I believe that someone took the time to pull my hand out of there. I should also help others to recognize the power in them to get themselves out of.
Which is a good thing, because oftentimes when people, you know, make it in life, they always feel like kila mtu ajisort. You look for your way the way I looked for my way. Now coming to our center of discussion this morning, which is about agriculture and what you do as a person in terms of agribusiness and farming. So yes, you mentioned to us that you began after you got retrenched. So how has it been being in the farm, given that it wasn't what you were used to doing? Because the way you said you're used to like wearing the heels, going to an office, but now you have to wear the gumboots, have on gloves. So how has that been like for you since when you began the farming?
It was a huge drastic change, because I was used to, you know, telling people what to do and
now
there was money, there was cash flow, and now I have to start without money. So the farming bit was, I started with zero capital, because I had a loan that I had to service with zero income. So already that was an uphill task. But then I had to figure out, how do you make a greenhouse? So it's me and a casual laborer that I'm paying per day, and in 3 days
here
you
you're
have
still
a
looking
greenhouse.
for some capital.
Yes. I actually, the thing that really pushes me, and I'm thankful to God that I didn't have money, it's because I had to figure out how to farm anyway. But as you go back to parenting and just how we've been brought up. I've been brought up in Nyahururu. Nyahururu people, what's up? Natuma salamu, your girl is here. I've been brought up in the farm. My mom was a housewife and a farmer.
So at least you had some basics of
yes,
it.
Yes. Not really. I didn't pay attention, but apparently it was seeping in through the skin. Yes.
So at least you also knew one or two, 3 things about the farming. So in as much as capital was an issue, which is also what I want us to like stick on there a little bit, because oftentimes someone wants to do something, even someone wants to venture into that industry, different farming or any other industry, but the big question is always, I do not have money to start.
Yes.
What would you have to say about that?
That's a mental block. Yeah, that's a mental block. That's something that's telling you why you can't.
Sometimes someone really doesn't even have out of that coin.
Been there, done that. The thing is to look at something from 3D dimension. Don't look at it from, if only I had money, I would do this. No, think of it in the smallest quantity. What can I do now? What do I have now? I can start by growing vegetables in a bucket, because those vegetables are the same that will grow in a 10-acre. So you don't need to start with 10-acre, get burnt, and say, I will never farm again, because you know, that's the story, right? Yeah, so start with where you are. What are you doing? Yes, going out is a hot mess. Finding even fresh vegetables, because you know we are landlocked in Nairobi right now. So vegetables, before they get to you, they are just been through horror. So grow your own fresh vegetables from where you are. And that does not just mean in farming. What are you doing where you are? Whatever idea you have, no matter how grand, yes, think of it in grand, but how can you scale it down for you to have movements. The idea about success is habits, daily habits, doing what you love. If you want to write a bestseller, start by blogging 100 words a day. It's about habit, getting into the culture that you're feeling, aki sijaenda farm hii wiki. I'm feeling like my body's... When your body gets to that point and your brain gets into that habitual rhythm, that's what you're looking for. That is what leads to success. It's not just overnight.
All right. So what I'm drawing from you is that start small.
Yes.
For any person who wants to start anything, could be, you know, farming or any other kind of business.
Yes.
But even at that, also what I'm getting from you is that sometimes, in as much as, yes, we might have that issue of capital, it's also that idea that I just want to start, like the way I'm envisioning this thing, it has to be there. And if it's not there, then I'm not doing it.
Yes.
Is that also that problem, that it's good to have a vision, yes. But, you know, don't like see it per se there until after you've begun?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. I can also even ask you, did you start here?
Of course
No,
not.
you went to school and it was boring, and then you tarmacked, and then, you know, you were doing some media. You didn't start on that seat. So just appreciate that it starts small, but we are very lucky. We are in the era of digital marketing. What has helped me, there are a lot of people doing farming, doing successful farming, but what has catapulted me to where I am right now is social media, the power of social media. So use all opportunities you have to leverage yourself to get to that point. But also understand that social media is not your main thing. You have to have a thing.
You have to have something you're doing.
Yes.
All right. Now, coming back to your kind of farming, what kind of food crops probably do you grow in your farm? And why those specific ones?
Yes. So I grow everything because I'm a sanguine. I want to try everything. And two, I am a biggest consumer of my product. So I will try and make sure that I never see the soko at all. I only go to the market only for potatoes, because potatoes have just refused, and I come from potato land. I have to have potatoes in my meal. So that's the only reason. So everything else, onions, tomatoes, garlic, skumas, mbogas, kienyeji mbogas, I grow mushrooms, I have rabbits, I have cuckoos, I have lettuce, I have cucumbers, I have strawberries.
Everything.
Yes. If there is soil, believe me, it grows.
Well, your energy is just on another level.
Yes.
But yes, in as much as you grow every food crop, and you've mentioned to us the kind of food crops that you grow, and also the reason as to why is because you know you have the land there and you're doing that. But you've also talked about you rear chicken and rabbit, yet you still have food crops here on the side. So how do you juggle the two?
I'm trying to make sure that I have a balanced diet. The one thing my mom taught us is about balanced diet. So you have to make sure hukuli mboga tu, it will be sad and depressing. So I add on some kienyeji broilers, which grow really fast, and I get the kienyeji eggs, which are premium. I'm able to sell that as much as I'm eating the chicken, and the surplus I'm also sending it to the market. And rabbits. Rabbits are my son's project. He started asking for very expensive toys, and we were like, you need to work for your own thing. Yeah, after you get him a bike, you realize, I cannot afford this habit. So we started, his grandfather gave him 1,000 to buy a rabbit, and now we have 18 rabbits.
So rabbits became like the alternative toys.
Yes. No, he's saving to buy himself a quad bike.
Okay. So even as you talk about, you know, what you do, and yes, you told us that, you know, you merge the two because, again, you also have space and you feel like you can do all of them. And if you have potential to do things, then do it. And I was also looking at a statement here which says that the future of Kenya in farming is not agriculture, but agribusiness, which is what you do. What do you think about that statement?
When people hear about farming, they think of peasant farmer, someone who's tilling the land every day. And I want to change
that was
mindset.
my idea.
Yes,
for me,
you want to change their mindset. And that's why I make the effort of wearing lipstick to change that mindset. Because, okay, I don't wear it every day, but I have to when I'm going to look for market, when I'm going to meet clients, when I'm going for trainings. I do like 40% actual farm hours in a week, and the rest of the time I'm networking, I'm creating videos, I'm going for trainings to learn more about farming, I'm online researching, I'm reading books, I'm doing my other projects like writing, I'm writing my second. So it's all about all those, it's about inclusion. It's just about being in the farm and working hard. We have figured out when you balance working hard and working smart, that's where the success is.
All right. Again, you've also mentioned networking and trainings, which is part of what you what you're doing, as much as you're also sticking into farming, which again brings me to that question of, for young people, do you, and even for the millennials who feel like, I have to be in an office setup, I have to be looking all glam and pop for me to know that I'm working and earning and getting money. Do you think this set of persons can move into farming? What kind of mindset can you like change for them to understand that also farming can be a job and you can earn and get a living from doing farming?
Yeah, so I definitely resonate with that because I was that person who was like, guy, now I'm going backwards. Yes, but then there are those Instagram times when I've showered and I put on makeup and I get that good picture and I post it and then I go back to my gumboots because I know the difference. For me, social media is a performance art, and so I give it that so that I'm still having a lot in common with the people who I call my friends, or, you know, I'm connecting in that way. But I also love money. I want an income. I don't want to go borrowing money. So, and I know this is the easiest way for me to make money because God does most of the things. Yeah, God does most of the job. I mean, for here to produce such a show, people have to actually work. But there, I just have to make sure I have the right seed, the skill of how to. Then I leave the rest and stuff comes out and I
wait
sell.
for it to grow. All right, so I'm speaking to Wangari Kuria, owner of Farm on Fire, talking to us about agribusiness for her as a person, how she started, and the future of this kind of business in this country, and also what young people can do if they want to venture into such kind of a business. So coming back to you, Wangari, you said you do your own farming. So are you still your own supplier, or do you have people that supply for you? And probably if you are your own supplier, how is it working for you? Supplier of your own, of the farm produce, when you want to supply to people?
So again, I use social media to tell people that I have mushrooms who want, so I go into WhatsApp group. My first priority is my estate because there I don't have to worry about logistics. They'll just be like, nilete 2 packets, nilete 2 kilos of tomatoes. So for them, they are my first way of marketing myself, because we have all had those people who started farming and the crop is ready and they're like, ikitu ayendi. No, you have yes, you actually have to make an intention to go out there and tell people, because you know you're struggling, you need those onions. You go to the market, they're going for 150 a kilo, yet the farmer is saying he's selling it for 40 bob. So there is a disconnect. You actually have to make the effort to go out and meet the buyer. So yes, I produce so much. I have farms all over. I lease farms. I don't own any land, so I lease farms and I go and I do mass production as well and just sell it to middlemen. Most of my clients are middlemen, mama mbogas as well.
So you transport it to them?
No, they farm gate. I don't do logistics, so they come and pick it from where I am.
So at least you can see that the supply process has not been as tedious as someone would imagine.
No, but it's because I'm clear on my strategy. I'm in production only. If you try to do everything, you might get overwhelmed and then lack capacity, because jana ulikuwa na onion leo hauna, so you have to go and source to make sure the client is happy. Then it just makes you spin. So me, I like to just get my niche.
Okay. Yes. Now, even as we are talking about the supply, and that you say that you, at least people that you supply to, or the people that get your products, ni watu wako hapo kwa estate karibu yako. So are you planning to expand, you know, your clientele based, and probably to which kind of person?
Yeah, one day the dream is to have 100 acres doing vegetables and for sure have like outlets in all counties, making sure that I'm supplying vegetables. That's the dream, yes. I would also like to go into export business, getting food trucks and exporting horticulture. It's a very good market. I am in partnership with a lady who we are doing herbs, and it's good money.
So you're also a YouTuber.
Yes.
How do you juggle the two? I mean, not even the two, like, no, since you do so many things, doing YouTube, getting content for that platform, doing your farm produce, writing your book, how do you bring, you know, those together?
So one thing that helps me is having a morning routine. I have already accepted that I am not an average person, and average people strive to succeed. So having a morning routine gives me leverage to be able to accommodate all this in one day. I have 2 children, and anyone who knows, when you have children, your day just goes. You've been busy from morning to dawn, from dawn to sunset. So what I do is have a morning routine. I wake up at 5 in the morning, I do my meditation, I visualize, I write my book, I read a little, and then I do my to-do list and something called a gratitude test. When I'm done with that, then I go for a jog, and then I come back, prepare my own breakfast, and by that time my family is awake, so I start to engage with them.
Okay. Yes. Now, coming back to the agribusiness in this country, do you think that this kind of business is marketable here in Kenya?
Definitely, definitely.
What makes it marketable?
One, you need very little capital. 2, it is people need food. I mean, like right now we are quarantined. The one thing that is at least still very essential is food, because people are eating more because they are idle, and then there is very little production because everyone is at a standstill. We are finding even big producers or big suppliers like even Twiga Foods are struggling because when they send their trailer to Meru, it can't come back at night the way it used to because there is lockdown during certain hours. So that means that guys, produce. Your farm produce won't lack market because of the situation that we are in right now. People need food, and I am foreseeing a shortage, so we need to get farming, guys.
Okay.
Yes.
And how profitable is agribusiness in this country? From at least for the time in which you've done it, how profitable do you think it is?
I think it's very profitable, but I also think like any other business, it takes time, it takes skill. Don't think because you've read in an article that someone is making 100 million a month, 100K a month doing chicken rearing or mushroom farming, that is a scam. So it knows that it takes time. Like any other job, you won't be able to make that money overnight. It means that people have grown into that until they're at that point where they have planned well. Like me, the one thing I've learned is that my seedbed always has to have something at all times, all year round, to make sure that at all times I'm harvesting. So it's also getting into the rhythm of how whatever you're doing works. So for agriculture, that has really helped me, that you get to that point. Maybe after a year or 2, if you do it consistently, then you'll start seeing that, this thing is really becoming very profitable.
Okay. Yes. You've mentioned something very important, that which I think many people that want to go into farming sometimes copy, that because I've seen Wangari doing chicken, I'll also go there and it will work. What do you have to say about, especially for those that want to like venture into farming, of copying what a friend has done and thinking it would work? How then do they get to decipher that for me this can work and I don't have to copy what someone else is doing in terms of just making it for myself, whether I want to do farming or not?
Copying is good. It ignites your spirit, inspires you into action, which is very important. Action is everything. We can talk, people can comment and say this is nice, but they don't act. So the action part, I give an A for that. But now when you copy, know that you're just copying the strategy. You're not actually copying the actual thing, like copying, copy pasting. Don't do that. What I would say is start small and also check with a variety of things. Don't just do exactly one thing so that you don't have a buffer. So try like 5 things, try like 10 things, because there are very different types of farming. I saw in Uganda there's even rat farming for laboratories, and I'm like, yay, awesome.
Someone can actually put rats.
Exactly, and they apparently their cost of production is very low. So you can do all those things, and then now try and find for yourself what is your niche, what is your thing. Don't just copy everything and pour everything into one thing. Copy, but take like 5 ideas and then try and see which one, go narrowing and finding what is my thing, what works well with my kind of personality, my blood, and that stuff.
Okay, so even as you continue to talk about the future of agribusiness in this country, I also learned that the average age of farmers is about 60 years in this country. 60 years. In a country where 60% of the population is under 35. Look at those numbers. The average age of farmers is about 60 years, yet 60% of this population is people under 35 years. What would you attribute that to?
there is a kind of attitude going around, and that's specifically why I started the YouTube channel, because I want to demystify this thing. I want to change people's attitude. I want people to see it as a cool venture, as a career as well. Because when I was growing up, I had the same issue. My mom was toiling every day, yet she never made any money. We ate that food, yes, but I never saw money changing hands. And for me, when there's a mama mboga buying 100 kilos of tomatoes in the morning, I like to take that photo to show people that this is actually a profit-making venture. It is, I'm not just saying people to farm for food. I want them to see it and an income-generating activity. The other challenge is, you know, young people, we want to go with the crowd. I'm just asking them to try and see how they can pluck themselves off from that crowd and start to figure out life for themselves. If something like rabbit farming can still make money for them, even when they're trying to venture into their corporate world and to other careers, they can still do both of them. And then also the parents in this era. You worked hard. You did all that farming, but you're saying, my son cannot do that. Your worry is just books. Your worry is to get that job, to get that car. We have predetermined a path for our children. So they have no option than to follow it, because when they start farming, your mother is the first person to call you a failure. Yet they're saying, nimekupeleka masters na hii ndio kazi unafanya.
Kulima ndo kazi unafanya.
Yeah. So we need just to change the perception and see if Wangare is making 100K a month, and yet doing so many other things that are bringing her money, because farming gives you a lot of extra time, then there is something she's doing right. So parents and everyone just needs to change their mentality.
Okay. Now, during this coronavirus pandemic time, how do you feel farmers have been affected, especially in terms of food production, from a farmer's point of view?
I mean, a lot of farming Facebook groups, and I know we are singing all the way to the bank because the supply is lower than the demand. What I know is that there is a little bit of struggle in terms of logistics, because like I do seedlings, and someone in Muranga wanted 10,000 seedlings of tomatoes, and I couldn't get it to him because there is no parcel services all the way. Yet, I wouldn't be the one taking it. I would just send it as a parcel, which is safe to send even during this pandemic. So there are a few logistical challenges. If I have a farm outside the metropolitan, that would have been a challenge for sure. People who are doing exports, I know, have been heavily affected, especially people who are doing spices and high-end horticultural stuff have been affected. But then, to me, I'm thinking it's good because it teaches you flexibility on how to think beyond the box. So like my friend who's doing basil and other herbs has started doing value addition and processing it for the local market.
Doing something a bit different that will be more profitable for you as a person.
Yes.
Okay.
It's good that it's giving us a chance to think differently, because we kind of get to become creatures of habit, and the universe doesn't like that. It always likes to throw a spin.
Okay.
Yes.
So even as talking about farming, and for people that may want to venture into that kind of business, farming business, because at least you understand that, you know, it's profitable in this country, what would you say is the most profitable crop to grow in this country for someone who may want to go into that kind of business?
That can vary, but for me, onions and tomatoes have become my most profitable venture. Yes.
So onions and tomatoes.
Yes. I would save tomatoes, because tomatoes you keep harvesting. But onions, just put a good lump sum in your pocket at once.
Okay.
Yes.
So just before we finish the discussion, Ramn? Okay, as Ramn is getting ready on the other side of studio to tell us what he has on his end. Wangari, we're talking about the crop that is most profitable, and you've told us onions and tomatoes, at least for what you're doing, and you can advise it even for someone. What about for someone who wants to get into the farming business? What kind of message would you have for that kind of person? Is it possible?
Not only is it possible, but start. You know it's possible. You know that you need very few resources. So my thing is start. I cannot overemphasize that word. Just start. And if you're feeling there is a fear creeping in, join into my course. Check me on social media platform, join into my course. It's running currently. But join in and I will hold your hand until you start your money-making venture.
All right, so as we bring the discussion to a close, Wangari, what would you say is the highest paying crop? Because, in as much as someone wants to get into farming and yes, this crop is more profitable, they also want that crop that will bring them money, like
so
good
for
me,
money. It's mushrooms.
Mushrooms now.
Yes.
Okay.
Because
and you can advise that for someone who may want to get into farming?
Yes.
All right.
It's hassle-free because the type I farm is called oyster, and I get market readily available. I used to do baton, but then I realized the market is too far from me. But it's also very lucrative. What I've noticed about mushrooms is that they grow in 2 days, they pin, and in 2 days they're ready for harvest.
Well, that's a short time.
Yes, a punnet that is this size goes for around 200 shillings or 180 shillings. Well, skumas for 180 bob, they're like 4 kilos. So when I look at it, the mathematics of it, I would rather do mushrooms. It's much more money, but I have to mix it with vegetables because it's the mamambogas who come to my farm and they're like, oh, unafanya mushroom. Nitaambia kijana mwingine alikuwa anatafuta kwa soko mushrooms. So they bring the people who will buy the cucumbers and the mushrooms and the strawberries.
Okay. So for someone who may want to start and get into the highest paying farming business, you'd say mushrooms.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that has been Wangari Kuria, the owner of Farm on Fire, talking to us about agribusiness. And for those who may want to venture into it, the advice has been there. Thank you very much, Wangari, for making time this morning. Ram, what more do you have on your side?
All right, we are shifting gears into the next discussion of the day about jobs. Now, this is one problem that Kenyans are facing currently. And when it comes to jobs, people have different kinds of work. People do different duties. People are in different sectors. We have the formal sector and the informal sectors. And according to the Kenya Association of Manufacturers Chairman Sachin Gudka, manufacturing sector has about 330,000 direct and 3 million indirect jobs. We have already lost about 30,000 jobs, and another 140,000 also remain vulnerable if the COVID-19 situation persists. There is even bound to be more distress if the current liquidity challenges facing businesses continue unaddressed. End of quote. That's what he says. And there are so many reports that have come in regards to how the coronavirus has affected different sectors in the country. So far, more than 30,000 formal jobs have been lost in the manufacturing sector, and 80% of the existing jobs are vulnerable, and they are left vulnerable because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But truth be told, not everyone goes to work in a suit. We have one sector known as the informal sector. This is one sector where people have been left jobless when it comes to this. And in the informal sector, we have about half, or at least 1.8 million people, workers, who face the risk of becoming jobless in the informal sector. People who make all these required goods and services available to you. We have over at least, get that number, 1.8 million workers who face the risk of becoming jobless. Manufacturers are saying that the risk is becoming, the situation is becoming grim. But now still, let me give you one more information in regards to this, because the informal sector has been affected and you cannot be able to quite say that it is not being considered during this pandemic, because when it comes to all these manufacturers, there has been a study that was sent out by the United States International University. They say that the pay has dropped in the informal sector to 1,220 shillings from 2,380 shillings before the disease, according to the study by the United States International University on the pandemic's effect in the informal sector. And it says that the research involved 657 randomly selected people from 26 countries, with 59% of the respondents being employees. Now, how much more do we get? Well, let me give you some more information. That it found that 13% of respondents had lost jobs. 18% was spending the money they had set aside for other things such as business, and others had already moved from urban to rural areas in the hope that life is more bearable there. And I quote, according to the report, evidence has shown that workers who have some form of employment contracts are less susceptible to income shocks in the short run. How is the coronavirus affecting the informal sector? Do we have positive, sustainable solutions that we can find when it comes to this informal sector? Well, Doreen Arange is coming up in a bit to give us more information and on this discussion on the effects of COVID-19 in the informal sector, and she'll be coming up in a bit to have a discussion on this. How is the COVID-19 affecting the informal sector? Remember, these are people who have been able to provide goods and services for the common mwananchi on a day-to-day basis. But currently, according to a report that the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, together with the audit from KPMG, they found that between 5 and 8 out of 10 jobs have been impacted by the pandemic, with employees working less, taking pay cuts, or they're on the verge of losing their jobs. People now no longer have anything to go home with to provide for their families. This discussion on the jobs is coming up in a bit. So keep tweeting and keep texting. How do you think we can be able to curb these effects of the COVID-19 on the informal sector? We're talking about jua kali. What from Jengo? Not everyone has been able to get money to be able to bring food and provide for their families, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic. What are the solutions? How can the government chip in? Remember, people have come up and they have been able to distribute food and supplies to different people in different parts of the nation. The hashtag is Good Morning Kenya. Give us your thoughts on this at Ramn, Aguko, at Doreen Arange, and at KBC Channel 1. The hashtag, as always, is Good Morning Kenya. Keep texting, keep tweeting.
That was a nice Ramn. Now, creating employment in these difficult times and empowering youths in the informal sector is our next discussion this morning. And I'll be joined live by Ben Guri, the coordinator of Jitole Voluntary Service Association, to help us understand how they're doing this in the informal sector, which kinds of informal sectors they're doing this at, and what kind of services they are offering there. Ben Guri, if you can hear me this morning, good morning to you.
Morning, madam.
So when you talk about Jitole Voluntary Service, what exactly is Jitole Voluntary Service and what kind of services do you offer?
Well, Jitole Voluntary Service is a community organization.
Yeah, keep going.
Just last year, we are very young. It is a community organization.
Yeah, so that is Ben Guri talking to us about Jitole Voluntary Service and what it is. So, Guri, you're telling us that it's a community association, yeah? That?
Yes, that has brought on board various technicians across the board from the informal sector, that is the Juakali sector. So we have a team of technicians who have volunteered to be with us across. I mentioned just a few. We have technicians in the welding sector, auto garage mechanics, or auto wiring. We have spray painters. We have people in the salon industry. We have even catering. We have cyber technologists. Those who are in the cyber industry. We have spray painters, panel beating. We have plumbers. We have carpenters. We have blacksmiths, opticians, even tea cutting guys, and many others, of course. We are also still bringing others on board.
All right. So in regards to this kind of services that you offer there at Jitole, talk to us about the motivation behind starting such kind of group. What necessitated that?
Well, actually, just as I mentioned, we just initiated it last year at around the time when security issues thorn in the flesh in our country. Remember the Dusit time when it was bombed? And when I looked at it keenly, you realize that they are the people who are involved, the perpetrators, most of them are young guys, young guys who are being used. And if you look around, also crime rate, those are very high, and most of the youth are so involved. Sometimes you also feel pity when you go around, you find small guys or young guys being shot down, being arrested, being taken to jail or cells. So that really touched me, and it moved me to at least think about something that can really help the youth, at least so that they can be engaged somewhere. Because once they are in that idle corner, that jobless corner, remember, as the saying goes, they say an idle mind is the devil's workshop. You realize most of our youth, when they're so much idle, they become very vulnerable and they indulge in so many social ills that also endangers our security. So this touched me, and I at least I reached out to some few friends whom we mobilized, we ganged together, and we came up with this organization so that at least we can volunteer as people in the Juakali sector, at least reach out to them, bring them on board, and offer them skills at the workplaces. So as we just gave a training at the workplace, at times some of them are absorbed in terms of apprenticeship. They are being trained at the same time they earn.
All right, so in this, during the coronavirus pandemic time, we know that many sectors have been affected by, this disease. And again, also the informal sector, I want to believe, is one of the sectors that has also greatly been affected. How would you say this group, Jitole, has been affected, and probably the members in it, how have they been affected?
Well, of course, everybody has been affected. Though some are just not so much affected. Like if you go to in the industry of welding, in the construction industry, you find that since construction is still going on, and in some parts, still there's a lot of construction, the guys in the welding part, they are doing well, and to them, they just need some moral boosters and some incentives, at least to necessitate their work. If you also go to some saloon guys, though some saloon members have been affected because of this notion of the fear of catching coronavirus. So you find that they are losing customers. People fearing to go to the salon. So some of them have been affected. They are closing down, and though some are still on.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have the auto mechanics. The garages are still on. It's quite fortunate that they're still on. So actually, just what it requires is just a booster or an incentive to keep them going, at least in this era of pandemic.
Okay, so at least in as much as some parts have been affected, but there are those that are still running, just like what you've mentioned.
Exactly.
All right. And in terms of recruitment, also we understand that many young people right now are at home. So many young people are at home. They're just, some don't even have anything that they're doing. Are you doing any recruitment for these young people, at least to get skills in regards to some of the services you offer there?
Exactly. Our office is still open. We are also on Facebook. We advertise it. And we also still reach out to those who can reach. We source them through our friends, relatives, also through our members. Once they get to know of such young people who are interested in acquiring skills, we reach them, and then at least we deploy them where necessary according to their interests.
Mm-hmm. All right, and even as you talk about recruitment, which is again a good thing because at least you're getting to help the young people and most so who have also lost jobs and during this time and may want to do something with their lives. But talking about matters to do with jobs, Ben, about 5.3 million of the 13.8 million Kenyan youths are jobless. Do you think that these numbers might rise in terms of young people getting jobs and bettering their lives?
Of course, job loss, we project it to be very high at this time of this pandemic.
Yeah.
But of course, since this has been a pre-existing issue, the unemployment of the youth, there's been an enormous problem, not only during this time of pandemic, because owing to the number, just as you have stated, the youth keep on growing, some graduating from schools and colleges, some are, like we said, now are going to lose jobs from their formal employment. And now we are going to have an influx of youth. That is why now Jitoleo is going to come in handy to help at least these youth so that at least they can get in touch with the blue collar jobs. Because so far, as you can see, white collar jobs are now going to be rare and rare.
Exactly. Now, even as you talk about the aspect of jobs and the fact that, again, many young people are losing jobs during this pandemic time, and which is difficult for not just the young people, but for anyone who's losing job. But let me just pick your mind on the kind of education system we have as a country. Yes, I know we are shifting to CBC, but the former 844 education system, would you say that this is also what has led to lack of that mind for young people to want to be creative and innovative and just want to be fixed on white-collar jobs?
Exactly, you are very right. That is why actually you see the government had also foreseen this and they introduced and they adopted the new system, that is the CBC. Actually, as we were growing, you remember we were brought up with the mindset that we just have to work hard, perform well, and get a white-collar job. So far, majority of us so far are in that mindset or that cocoon. So at least the government has done a very good initiative in adopting this CBC. In fact, I applauded it very much, and I commend you guys for also proceeding for this. We would like actually to encourage the whole society, not only the government. The government is really doing much, but also the society at large should embrace this, the parents, the community, so that we start upholding also blue-collar jobs. Actually, white-collar jobs have been over-glorified in the 844 system, whereby it was more of academic-oriented in terms of performance. And in fact, you remember it led to loss of so many youths, thinking of or engaging in social ills like committing suicide once somebody is not going to perform well, maybe pressure from the parents, from the community. You find they cannot bear they could not bear, even now they cannot bear such pressures. So CBC actually has done wonders in this area, and that is why Jitoleo Association is also going to uphold this in this area, as we do it now in the informal setting, in the community setup, in the grassroots setup, so that even these guys, these young people, when they come out from colleges or schools, at least there's a place they can be absorbed and continue with their area of interest. Remember now, there has been a crusading of talents.
Yeah.
Now, talent promotion is good, and it's also good that we now also mold our children to be all-rounded people who can engage in any other talent, and especially also in the blue-collar job. You know, most young people now, I see they tend to focus on music and sports. And they should also be helped to understand or be sensitized that talent does not mean it's only sport and sport and music. That is it. Thinking that is where money is flowing. Now, also in the blue collar job, if you talk of somebody like a welder can get a big contract and in 2-3 months he earns good money. Just the same case as an artist.
Okay.
So us as the society, we should also do well in promoting the mindset of being an all-round person.
So the mindset of being an all-round person is what you are emphasizing on.
Exactly.
Okay, now coming back to the job market in this country, about only 155,000 youths can be able to get jobs in the labor market, whether after they've left TVET or even after they've left universities. And so a good number of them are the ones, especially not be able to get these jobs, are being advised that they can go and create their own employment, be self-employed. But also on the flip side, they will argue, I don't have capital maybe to begin that salon, or I don't have capital to begin that welding kind of a small company, if I may mention. What would you have to say in regards to that, the issue of young people and getting capital to start businesses for themselves?
Yes, actually, we also have we have such kind of objective whereby, as we engage them, we don't just train and eventually leave them there at the end of the day like colleges do. As we want it to be a unique thing whereby we train and employ. If we cannot employ, we can offer startup or capital. God willing, we are aspiring to have our own polytechnic workshop whereby we are going to have apprenticeship that is on-job training.
Yeah.
Whereby we engage, we train, and at the same time they have a hope of getting employment, either by our own workshop or on their own. That is through our startups that will be able to provide later on in future. That is when we shall be able to get enough funding. So far, we cannot say that we are adequate enough in terms of resources and finances.
Yeah.
But that is one of our projections, so that we in future we have our own big workshop that entails all these skills, and they are going to be trained and at the same time get employment.
Okay, so Gori, even as you talk about empowering of these young adults, especially in terms of looking for what they can do to better their lives, would you say that the issue of capital does not need to be like a big issue for any young person who may want to start anything in terms of business?
Yeah, exactly, because as we engage with our volunteer members, like the ones in the salon, salon, you don't need much. You just have to acquire the skill, and then there you are. Even in the neighborhood, we've seen ladies or guys going on with the business, and they make money. They earn money without even having to rent a house to start a workshop or something of the sort. And also, like the welding guys. The welding guys also, once you have the skills, sometimes you just have to, you just need a very small capital to buy just a machine, and then there you are. Also, like the barbering, those in the barbering shops. Barber shops, the machine is also not very expensive. A friend can even offer to buy for you or any other person or any other well-wisher. So in most of the areas that we engage in, that is why we want to focus so much on these technical fields, because majority of them, they do not need a large capital as such, unless you want to go in a large scale way.
All right, so I'm speaking to Ben Gori, the coordinator of Jitole Association Group, just talking to us about what they do there as a group and how they're helping young people to be empowered, how they can become their own employers and not necessarily have to wait for white-collar jobs. Now, coming back to you, Ben, there was this statement I read that said that the informal sector is a crucial sector of most of the developing countries in terms of employment. What makes the informal sector one of those important pillars in terms of employment, especially for developing countries?
Well, for example, look at the developed countries now that we have, like, for instance, the China that now Kenya is so much dependent on. Look at its economy, you find that they are not so much dependent on the white-collar industry. Actually, they are dependent on the blue-collar industry. They are so much industrialized, right from the small scale to the large scale. You find things like toothpick. They make them and they sell. That is in the small industry. You find small toys and what have you, and so many things. that they make. So if you look at their economy, you find that they produce a lot such that they have even the three categories, whereby there are some that their level of products that they produce for high-end countries, the medium countries, and the third world countries, so to speak. We find that most of the products that they bring to us, like as the third world countries, they are of low level. So if you look at how they started, you find that even young people are so much, right from young, from childhood, they are motivated and they are molded. Just like you remember, if you're a Bible reader, you know Jesus, who taught Jesus to be a carpenter? Actually, it was his father. So you see, like just in the olden times, they developed, and it's just started by a small industry. So even countries like China, India, and the rest that we depend on, you look at the economy, they are so much dependent on industry. And once a country is so much industrialized, you'll find that you will become more stable, and not much of the products you'll be able to import. And once at the moment you are importing a lot, obviously you'll not be doing any good economy. There'll be no balance of trade. Balance of trade comes only when we are exporting a lot. And to export a lot, that will mean that we have to promote our own technology, right from small scale, small industry technology up to the large scale one. And this is what actually editorial is aspiring, so that if the country can embrace it, we are going to promote all in the small industry, the Juakali industry. Like now you see, recently you saw some small boy inventing some good machine, washing machine. Now, such like technology, if we start harnessing them from childhood, it's going to promote the country in a very big way that we are not going to imagine.
Okay, and Ben, you've given us good examples, especially of those countries, you know, if I may say, the first world countries, and what they are doing and how they really have embraced this informal sector. From someone who is in such kind of a sector, what can you say for developing countries? How can they embrace this sector, the informal sector?
Like Kenya, so to speak, we would like actually if we start with the government, to actually have policies that promote the small industries. If we go down, like the devolved governments, go to their CDF structure and the rest, they should have a portion or something set aside for the small industries, those in the Juakali sectors. As they promote the other industries like music industries, the art industry, they should also find avenues of promoting projects like these ones of ours, and of course, and others. They should promote such projects, and also individuals who are in these industries. Also, from the college level and the school levels, they should promote these areas by facilitating in terms of making sure that there are enough resources and facilities that can enable this industry to grow. So it's also good for a government to be able to also not to be too much focused on maybe politics and maybe other areas, forgetting other areas that are also important, like now. It is true like now, well, there's COVID, but also it's good to remember that we still need to live. Life has to go on, and there's time to also recover. We have to strategize on how we are going to recover economically, and that is by way of going to put incentives for these small industries or the informal sector.
So when you talk about promoting such kind of a sector and giving support to such kind of a sector, and you're like looking at the government to do that, so break it down for us. What kind of support might people in this group get? What kind of support might you get so that it can be more efficient and effective in offering the kind of services that you offer in terms of trainings in the informal sectors?
Exactly. Making the business, and one is making the business environment very favorable. Like, for example, making sure that those in the Juakali sector, they get access to these formalities in an easier way. There's less paperwork when maybe you want to start a business. And of course, those in these projects, they can provide incentives like resources that we need. We need certain machines we can provide. They can donate machines. And not only the government, even other NGOs and well-wishers, the community at large. They can give support in terms of even finances or even, facilities. There are various facilities that these people need. Actually, in the technical field, we need a lot of facilities. Like the saloon guys, there are certain items they require, the welders, the mechanics, and all the rest. They need tools. So if by and by they can be able to be offered some incentive, at least it will be able to promote them. For example, once you promote a welder with a machine, just one machine, he will be very well motivated to accommodate many young youths. Go to a saloon, the same, and also go to a barber, even the cyber guys. If you just buy them, for example, just one computer or two, they'll be able to accommodate so many young youths and train them.
Okay, so Ben, as we bring the discussion to a close, I just want to pick your mind on what can be done to change the mindsets of young people, at least to understand that also the informal sector can be a sector where they can venture into, go create their own employment and make money. Very briefly.
Exactly. In fact, it's time now we have to depart and desist from this culture of a dependence on the government. We actually have to move up to speed as the society at large, starting with ourselves, the parents, the community, the media, the government, and any other person. From wherever we are, even our teachers. We should have sessions whereby our teachers are able to counsel our youth right from school, so that when they're coming from school, out of school or from school, at least they are well prepared to meet challenges outside the world, so that they are not just bombarded with the attitude of you must perform and go to a university. Also, our parents would like, yes.
All right.
Yes.
So thank you very much, Ben Gori, for making time this morning and talking to us about empowerment for young people.
Thank you.
Okay, so I've been speaking to Ben, the coordinator of Jitole Association, talking to us about empowering young people. Just before we bring the show to a close, Ram, when you talk about empowering young people and also more of what Ben has said this morning, is that counseling is important for young people to embrace the informal sector and to understand that it's not just the white-collar jobs, the place where they can make money, that also the informal sector is a good place for employment. Okay.
Understanding that life is not all about, the money or looking for the money or putting on a suit or looking to buy a suit. Life is all about how clever you are in terms of your wits, how productive you can be. Because you can be a man who puts on a suit and you are not productive. And you can put on jeans and you're productive. So I think the youths have been so much geared into desiring to work in an office, to the point that when we have other sectors that offer better opportunities, we do not look out for them. So the informal sector, still a good place to be. But the COVID-19 is only that it has brought in challenges in all sectors, but we shall overcome.
Mm-hmm. And unemployment. I mean, Ram, so many times when we have the discussions surrounding young people and getting jobs, creating jobs for themselves, the issue of unemployment still continues to crop up. Just trying to understand how can young people get jobs, but also we've been trying to talk about the thing of mindset. And you've mentioned that it's important that you can be in a jeans and be productive. You don't have to necessarily be in a suit and be productive. But that brings the whole aspect of mindset, because even when you're growing up, it's like you're taught, go to school, go finish primary, degree, go to high school, finish, go to campus, finish, then go get a job in an office. That brings the whole aspect of what are we being fed, or what are we allowing ourselves to consume in terms of coming to the job market. Ram, briefly, what do you think about all of that?
I remember, you remember the discussion you had?
Yes.
With before this.
Yeah, with Wangari.
Yeah, on farming.
Yeah.
That's the informal sector. We should get inspired by such people. You know, she was so bright, you know, highlighting how the informal sector can also bring opportunities, great opportunities. We need to change our mindset when it comes to that.
Yeah, we need to change our mindset. Very important. So that's that this morning, and that's where we wrap it. We wrap Good Morning Kenya till tomorrow. Many thanks for making time. My name is Dorina Rangi.
And as always, I would like to wind up with something to keep you by. A quote. There are three kinds of people. 1, those who make it happen. 2, those who let it happen. And 3, those who wonder what happened. Where are you? May God bless you. May God bless the work of your hands. My name is Ramn Aguko.
Virusi vya korona vinazidi kuenea haraka kote ulimwenguni, na kwa sasa hakuna dawa au chanjo ya kuzuia. Husambaa wakati vijitone kutoka kwa mtu aliyeambukizwa vinaporuka akiongea, kukohoa au kupiga chafya. Vijitone hivi hutua kwenye sehemu ambazo mikono hushika na huwezi kuviona, lakini hata kama huvioni haimaanishi kuwa hakuna, na unaweza kuambukizwa unapogusa uso wako, pua, mdomo au macho. Ili kusaidia kuzuia kuenea kwa virusi hivi, sote tunahitajika kufanya mambo matano. 1. Fuata hatua hizi: kuosha mikono yako mara kwa mara na sabuni na maji kwa angalau sekunde 40. 2. Funika mdomo wako na kiwiko wakati wowote unapokohoa au kupiga chafya. 3. Usishike uso wako. 4. Epuka sehemu zenye watu wengi. Weka umbali salama baina yako na wenzako. 5. Kaa nyumbani ukiweza, hasa ikiwa una dalili zozote za ugonjwa. Kwa maelezo zaidi tembelea www.who.int.
Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide.
On the next episode of Corner.
I mean is, when a trauma happens, you wonder how your life could ever move on.
Have you ever been told how beautiful your heart is?
Julia, I don't know how to apologize for last night.
That's okay.
No, it's not.
Flights. Remember, I have the charity fight that is coming up, and I also have a family.
And we have a bus seat too, please.
I don't care what a bus feels like.
You should.
Senate. This is the first among two sittings which the Senate will hold today, this Tuesday, May 12th, 2020. This broadcast is brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. The broadcast is available on Senate TV as well as KBC Channel 1. You can also stream this live broadcast on YouTube, courtesy of the Parliament of Kenya YouTube channel. This morning, the Livestock and Livestock Products Marketing Board Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2 of 2019, will be read for the first time in the Senate, and the Pandemic Response and Management Bill, Senate Bills number 6 of 2020, by the Chairperson Ad Hoc Committee on COVID-19 Situation in Kenya, will be debated for the second reading. The Sacco Societies Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 1 of 2018, is also in the order of business this afternoon. The debate on this was interrupted on Tuesday, 18th February 2020. Also scheduled for second reading, the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bills number 13 of 2018, and the National Drought Management Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 26 of 2019. The Reproductive Healthcare Bill, Senate Bills number 23 of 2019, is also in the order of business this afternoon. As well, there is a message, petition, papers, statements, which will be delivered in the Senate. The message from the National Assembly on the passage of the Representation of Special Interest Groups Law Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 52 of 2019, will be read by the Speaker of the Senate. As well, the Speaker will present a petition to the Senate on the plight of former Machakos County-wide representative staff. There are 3 papers which will be laid on the table of the Senate. 1, the 5th progress report of the Ad Hoc Committee on COVID-19 Situation in Kenya, the report of the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources on the Sectional Properties Bill, National Assembly Bills number 23 of 2019, as well as the report of the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources on the National Drought Management Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 26 of 2019. And pursuant to Standing Order 47, subsection 1, the Senator for Trans Nzoia County, Senator Dr. Mike Ombito, will make a statement concerning misleading information in the media concerning coronavirus. The Senator for Kilifi County, Senator Stewart Madzayo, will make a statement concerning alleged rape and murder of Miss Margaret Shukrani Masha at the Bamba Police Station in Bamba Ward, Kilifi County, and the ensuing unrest in Bamba area following protests against alleged rape and murder of Miss Masha. Nominated Senator Dr. Isaac Moura will make a statement regarding effects of COVID-19 pandemic on micro and small enterprises. And pursuant to Standing Order 48, subsection 1, nominated Senator Sylvia Kasanga will seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health regarding the operations of the National Hospital Insurance Fund, NHIF. The Senator for Nyandarua County, Senator Paul Gidiomi, will seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the alarming wave of unresolved murder cases in Oljoro Rock constituency, Nyandarua County, in the last 6 months. Nominated Senator Beatrice Kwamboka will seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education regarding the status of education in Kenya following the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. The Senator for Isiolo County, Senator Fatuma Dulo, will seek a statement from the Ad Hoc Committee on the COVID-19 situation in Kenya concerning the challenges currently experienced in Isiolo County relating to COVID-19 pandemic preparedness. Senator for Bungoma County, Senator Moses Wetangula, will seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads and Transportation regarding the traffic congestion along the Bungoma-Kanduyi-Malava road. And finally, the Senator for Vihiga County, Senator George Khaniri, will seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations concerning alleged increased cases of burglaries and robberies in the country during the curfew time. If you're just joining us, this is a sitting of the Senate on this 12th day of May 2020. My name is Edward Kabase. I will now hand you over for this live broadcast courtesy of the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit and KBC. Good morning.
Let us pray. Mighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages.
Order, Senators. Honorable Senators, I wish to report to the Senate that pursuant to Standing Order 41, 3, and 4, that I have received the following message from the Speaker of the National Assembly regarding the passage of the Representation of Special Interest Groups Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 52 of 2019. Pursuant to the said standing orders, I now report the message, open quote, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Orders 41.1 and 142 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey the following message from the National Assembly. Whereas the Representation of Special Interest Groups Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 52 of 2019, was published via Kenya Gazette Supplement number 107 of 3rd July 2019 as a bill concerning county government to amend various laws to give further effect to Article 100 of the Constitution and promote the representation in Parliament persons with disabilities, youth, and other minorities, ethnic and other minorities, and marginalized communities. And whereas the National Assembly considered and passed the said bill on Wednesday, March 11, 2020, with amendments in the form attached hereto, now therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Article 100 Part 4, Paragraph 4, of the Constitution and Standing Order 142 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby refer the said bill to the Senate for consideration. End of quote. Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 157, which requires that a bill originating in the National Assembly be processed by the Senate in the same manner as a bill introduced in the Senate by way of first reading in accordance with Standing Order 139. I direct that the bill be listed for first reading on Tuesday, 12th May 2020, which is today at 2:30 p.m. Thank you. Next order.
Order number 4, petitions.
Order, Senators. I hereby report to the Senate that a petition has been submitted through the clerk by Mr. Patrick Wambua Mwangangi, a citizen of the Republic of Kenya and a resident of Machakos County. As you are aware, under Article 119(1) of the Constitution, and I quote, every person has a right to petition Parliament to consider any matter within its authority, including enacting, amending, or repealing any legislation, end of quote. Honorable Senators, the salient issues raised in the said petition are: 1, that the petitioners were employees of the County Assembly of Machakos County, and they were terminated on 23rd October 2017 after the general elections. 2, that upon termination, the petitioners were given their benefits in spite of writing to the County Assembly to request to be compensated and petitioning. I repeat that upon termination, the petitioners were given their benefits in spite of writing to the County Assembly to request to be compensated and petitioning the Labor Relations Court in the Machakos County. That efforts to follow up the matter with the County Assembly and the Labor Relations Court has been futile. I think they were not given their benefits. The petitioner therefore prays that the Senate intervenes to ensure that the petitioners are duly compensated and enacts a legislation to address any possible legislative gaps. Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 231, I shall now allow comments, observations, and clarifications in relation to this petition. Senate Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate the petitioners for bringing that petition to the Senate. Mr. Speaker, this House has continued to receive important petitions on matters related to devolution. And one of the subjects that's really very contentious is the manner in which human resources run in the counties. Mr. Speaker, you know very well that counties are smaller entities. And one of the challenges we've had was dealing with recurrent expenditure. The problem we have is that in most cases after elections, and particularly in situations, maybe not in the example of Machakos may not be befitting, but say counties like Kitui or counties that their governors changed in the second term. One of the challenges the county public servants have had were to find themselves in a situation where they have their jobs are terminated on flimsy grounds to pave way for persons that were given political promises. And so, Mr. Speaker, as the relevant committee is going to deal with this issue, one of the most important issues is to ensure that the County Public Service Board enjoys its independence, because there is a lot of interference from the county executive If you see the drafting of the County Public Service Board in the County Government Act, the intention was to create a semi-independent institution or sort of independent institution like the Public Service Commission at the national level. And so, Mr. Speaker, this committee should be even ready and bold to bring further amendments to the County Government Act, to the relevant section, to see whether we can strengthen those sections to protect staff at the county level who are likely to be victims of political witch hunt and gerrymandering, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support and say that this is an area that, as a Senate, we must continue interrogating. And I have a bill that already we mediated, we passed in this House. We're waiting for National Assembly to also finish its part. It has very good provisions on strengthening the chapter on the county public service. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wambua first, then Senator Chilayako next.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to comment on the petition from Machakos. Mr. Speaker, I have only a few things to say about this petition in relation to the human resource management in a lot of counties. And the Speaker, in support of this petition, I want to urge that the committee to which you're going to deliver this petition looks into the critical issue of capacity building for human resource in our counties. Only yesterday, Mr. Speaker, I received a delegation of employees of the county government of Kitui. And these are village administrators who for the last 7 years have stagnated at job group H. There's no progression, there are no promotions, there is no structure on a natural progression for the human resource capacity in our counties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the same applies to the issue of ECD teachers. And I'm happy that the chairman for education is here. That's a very gray area in all our counties, Mr. Speaker, and it's a human resource issue. That one county has a policy on how to manage ECD teachers who are employed on permanent and pensionable basis. Others are on contract basis. And in both cases, there is no clear progression of human resource in this area. The Speaker, in support of that petition, I would urge that when counties are constituting the public service boards, the county public service boards, then emphasis must be put on the capacity of the members of the board to look into issues of promotions, career progression, and reward reinforcing positive performance by county employees to encourage growth. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Make them brief. Senator Chilayako.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for an opportunity to make a few remarks regarding this important petition. Mr. Speaker, delivery of services in counties depends very much on the quality of human resource we have in counties. And Mr. Speaker, there are three mistakes that happen in all counties. One, employment in all counties follow political loyalty and political needs. They do not follow what is the requirement in terms of human resource establishment. I think the responsible committee should look at whether Machakos' method of recruitment follows the line of the needs that they have. Number two, there is a lot of politicization of public servants in counties. You will find that by and large governors regiment the public servants who are in those counties in such a manner that they are used for campaigns, they are used for thuggery, and they are used to advance causes for which they are not employed. So when these governors get out of office, you will find that the incoming governor will find a team that hitherto was fighting him or her or a team whose commitment was not about public service. So this is another problem. The third problem is that the manner in which public servants in counties are treated when it comes to matters termination of services is in the fashion of kangaroo courts. It is already decided somewhere by some thugs that you should be thrown out of office because you belong to a clan that did not vote for somebody, or you belong to an interest group that is not welcome. So this kind of situation must be dealt with. I believe that the petition is a good petition. I also believe that if nothing is done about the quality of public service in counties, then service delivery will suffer and continue to suffer as we sink more and more public funds in this area. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mahmood? Any other senator before I close the
Mr. Speaker, this
petition?
is a very important petition. Mr. Speaker, on the element of devolution, I think one thing we did not get right is how to handle public service. Public service of Kenya under PSC has over the years established traditions and regulations that safeguard the interests of public servants and also ensure there is career progression and safeguards against abuse. When the devolution came, every county with public service boards with little experience started employing people. First of all, even the quality was wanting. Secondly, in terms of career progression, people are employed. A first-year graduate, 2 years employed as director, job group R, job group P, whatever they call it, and there is no progression thereafter. In fact, there is a crisis in how the public service in the counties are being handled. There must be an overarching regulation which actually covers everybody, so that we actually have entry points, progressions, disciplinary procedures, so that people are employed for the job they are done, so that you don't end up frustrating the very people you employ. Then when government changes, then people change again. This is what you should regard. I think there must be the committee looking at this. I think with time we require some law to actually put some sanity into the management of public service in the counties. I thank you.
Thank you. Senator Mazayo.
Asante Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, pia mimi nikiweza kuwapatia kongole wale ambao wameleta petition hii kutoka Machakos, ni kwamba ni jambo la kusikitisha katika serikali za county tukiona kwamba wafanyikazi haki zao zinagandamishwa sana. Bwana Spika, mimi mwenyewe niliangalia ama nilichunguza nimeweza kuketi katika koti ambayo imeangalia maslahi ya wafanyikazi. Bwana Spika, utaona kwamba katika Kenya mfanyikazi aliye chini haheshimiwi. Na sisi tunasema kwamba ni muhimu sana kama kila mtu katika nchi hii aweze kuheshimiwa katika utendakazi wake. Kila mikono miwili ambayo inafanya kazi lazima iregeshewe asante kulingana na haki na mshahara na ile kazi aliyotenda. Bwana Spika, tukiangalia hii petition tunaona kwamba hawa walifanya kazi na hawa kusema kwamba wanataka kuondoka na hatujui ni kwa sababu gani waliachishwa hiyo kazi. Bwana Spika, ukitaka kuachisha mtu kazi ni sharti uweze kumweleza ni kosa gani alilofanya ama ni njia gani ambayo uliofuata wewe kama tajiri ili kuweza kumwachisha kazi. Hawezi kumwachisha kazi vile unavyotaka. Bwana Spika, ukiangalia katika county mara nyingi utaona ya kwamba wafanyikazi morali yao iko chini sana. Hii ni sababu ya kwamba stakabadhi za masomo hazitiliwi uzito. Utapata ya kwamba mtu ambaye amesoma mpaka amepata PhD ama daktari wanafanya kazi katika mahospitali yetu kama hivi sasa wakati wa COVID-19. Mishahara yao ukiangalia na wale watu wanafanya kazi kama chief officers na wapi, wao utaona kwamba mishahara ya chief officers iko juu kuliko mishahara ya madaktari. Kwa hiyo tutasema ya kwamba kulinganishana na kisomo na experience ya mtu Ndio sababu kuwe na njia ama mwafaka maalum wa kuonyesha kwamba ikiwa umesoma umefika kiasi fulani utapata kiasi fulani, ili hiyo ratiba kama hiyo iweze kufuatwa katika kaunti zote 47. Asante Bwana Spika.
Okay, Senator Cheruiyot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the progress of any society, institution, hinges so strongly on the kind of human resource that that particular institution or body can attract. The fact that as a Senate, almost 7-8 years into devolution, we haven't been able to resolve the long-standing issue of how our employees, particularly those who transited from the defunct local authorities, and those who are employed by previous regimes, that is in counties where a particular governor wasn't elected back into office, are treated, continues to undermine devolution, Mr. Speaker. It continues to do so because it is impossible to progress as a county if you cannot attract the best brains that are available in a particular jurisdiction. Mr. Speaker, it is no secret that many of the people who apply for jobs into counties do so with a heavy heart most of the time. And perhaps many of them just take up the offer because as a last resort. But you will hardly find a situation where people can confidently apply to serve members of a public in a particular county due to political interference. We must be able, Mr. Speaker, as a Senate, to consider, and perhaps this petition presents an avenue for us, to give a long-lasting solution on how we can safeguard the right of workers in our county government, such that despite the fact that one administration may transit office, at least the rights of our workers are not interfered with. And that is the only way we shall be able to ensure that we have the best talents working in our counties, Mr. Speaker, and therefore provide the best services to Mwananchi and ensure that our counties progress. Failure to do that, Mr. Speaker, things will remain as they are, and it will be extremely difficult for us to be proud. I want to believe it was not out of idle duty that the petitioners wrote this petition to this House. They believe in this institution. They know that on each and every occasion that when the Senate is called upon to rise to the occasion and give direction that will influence and shape the future of this country, we have never failed to do so, Mr. Speaker. I hope on this particular petition we shall once again be able to achieve that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I think order. Senator Cheruiyot, you have. Why are you saying the things you are saying from where you are sitting?
No, Mr. Speaker, I could see as if you are squinting.
No,
so I
the
was
things
assisting
you are saying are right, but they cannot be said from where you are sitting.
I much obliged, Mr. Speaker.
Because you are basically dishing out
Illegal orders
opportunities to talk to senators.
Apologies.
From the backbench. Very well. I think we need to close. Let me see. There is Senator Imana. Who else? Senator Zakaja. Just two. Okay. Let's hear those two and move on. Senator Imana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to add my voice to supporting the petition by the citizens of Machakos that they should be treated right and with respect. Mr. Speaker, those of us who are gray in the head remember a time when this country employed people based on their credentials, based on what they got in school. There is a trend that is really going around in the country and is taking us downwards by the fact that in counties, in several counties, people are actually given jobs based on their political inclinations, based on who they supported in the elections. This trend cannot push Kenya forward. This trend cannot develop Kenya because what it means is you're going to get people with dubious credentials, unable to think, unable to project issues to bigger scales, and then now development is going to be affected because they do not know what to do. They're only sitting there waiting for their salaries. So bundling out people who may have been qualified, who may have worked diligently is not fair at all. It is us, senators, who should set the rules so that everybody in the country, in all counties, can be treated fairly, so that they get what they deserve. Mr. Speaker, I do support this petition. Thank you.
Order, Senator Lagat. You are late, meaning you are raising your hand as an afterthought. Let's hear from Senator Sakaja, because this is a labor issue mainly.
Indeed, Mr. Speaker, yes, this is a labor issue. I want to thank the petitioners for raising this matter with the Senate. Mr. Speaker, labor issues have really been a mess in our counties, and we've really been struggling as a labor committee to get a hand on them. We have several proposals, including legislative proposals that we're bringing. Because of the nature of having 47 different public service boards without a coordinated way of working, Mr. Speaker, we have brought to this House a county public service board bill that will help us address many of these things that cut across counties. When we came up with the devolution in 2010, Mr. Speaker, it was not to create ethnic Balkans, that someone who's born in Tharakanithi must work only in Tharakanithi. There are certain skills that need transferability, that need coordination between counties. And then within counties, Mr. Speaker, we have many cases like this. Non-remittance of statutory deductions. The counties owe the pension funds, the LAP trust and LAP fund, billions, possibly now maybe 70-something billion. So we have a lot of former workers of local authorities, pensioners out there who cannot access money that they worked for over years and years of giving service. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to assure this House that the Labour Committee, which I lead and very ably deputized by Senator Milgo, I think I saw her earlier, will look into this. But on top of it, Mr. Speaker, we shall give that legislative proposal. I hope it can be fast-tracked, so that tomorrow it is not Tharakanithi and then Nairobi and then Narok and then Vihiga, because this is happening in all our counties, all 47 counties. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to give that undertaking. If this petition is...
Order, Senator Sakaja, would you like to be informed by Senator Wambua?
Of course. I don't know anyone who would refuse such an opportunity.
Senator Wambua?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Speaker, the Senator for Nairobi has touched on a very important issue, on the issue of non-remittance of statutory deductions. And Speaker, the painful thing about it is that money is already deducted from employees. So from their salaries, the money has been deducted. But the county governments have not remitted that money to the trust fund, and somebody has definitely pocketed that money. Mr. Speaker, this is a criminal case, really. And I want to urge, because Senator Sakaja is the chair for Labour, that they take very, very drastic action and recommendations on how to manage this issue, because it's a serious, serious issue, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Right. Mr. Sakaja, you still...
Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I want to thank Senator Wambua, because it is really painful. The money has been deducted over years from your salary, and it is not remitted. Mr. Speaker, some of the proposals we're bringing as Labour Committee, and I'm glad that now our look at the county allocation of revenue bill has been pushed a bit. Once we get full verification of all these debts from each county, what each county owes, LAP trust, LAP fund, what each county has not paid as pay as you earn, we want to propose, Mr. Speaker, that we deduct that money at source here in Kara and pay LAP trust, LAP fund, and KRA what is owed by these people. Because when you give that money back to the counties, they're not remitting it. And it is the ordinary former councillor, former local government worker, sweeper, who is suffering, not getting benefits that they have worked hard for. So I'll bring this proposal, Mr. Speaker, and I hope senators will be able to consider it positively. Thank you, sir.
Senator Dr. Lagat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to add two things on this one. I support this particular petition fully because it is very important. I just wanted, Mr. Speaker, to inform Senator Wambua The concerns on matters ECD education in counties has been a great challenge for a long time, and the Senate Education Committee has developed a bill, and it is now at mediation point with the National Assembly, and I'm sure that sooner that one will come to fruitful stage. Another one, Mr. Speaker, I just want to add that we need to solve this issue very seriously. Most of us have observed the reports from Auditor General more often than not. And if you check, this particular area has been used as a loophole by most of the counties to misuse the money that we actually give to the counties in the name of human resource development. You'll find out that in most of the counties, the recommendations by the Auditor General is that there was a seminar for 2 days, there was a seminar for 3 days, and it is taken as if it was a complete training for workers. And if you check the money that is spent in such an area, Mr. Speaker, is so much such that unless we check on this one, it is a great loophole for the corruption in our counties. So we've got to develop proper structures for recruitment and staff development. Otherwise, some governors will take advantage of this, take people for a seminar for 2 days, and take a lot of money from the taxpayers. That is my contribution, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 232.1, the petition should be committed to the relevant standing committee for its consideration. In this case, I direct that the petition be committed to the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare. In terms of Standing Order 232.2, the committee is required in not more than 60 calendar days from the time of reading this prayer to respond to the petitioner by way of a report addressed to the petitioner and laid on the table of the Senate. Thank you. Very well. Other senators, I have a communication to make. Honorable Senators, as you recall, on Tuesday, 5th May 2020, a number of senators, while contributing to the debate on the second reading of the County Allocation of Revenue Bill, Senate Bill number 7 of 2020, raised concern on the status of the third basis for revenue sharing among county governments. Following the concerns raised by the senators, the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget moved that debate on the county allocation of revenue bill, Senate Bill number 7 of 2020, be adjourned pursuant to Standing Order 105. The adjournment was done on the premise that senators required a forum for consultation on the third basis for revenue sharing among county governments before proceeding with the second reading of the bill. Honorable Senators, in compliance with the directive of the Chair, the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget, in collaboration with the Commission on Revenue Allocation, has organized a meeting for all senators to discuss the proposed third basis for revenue sharing among county governments. The event will take place on Thursday, 14th May 2020, at the Bomas of Kenya in Nairobi from 8 a.m. All honorable senators are invited to participate in this crucial meeting. Senators may confirm their participation with the Office of the Clerk of the Senate for purposes of planning. Thank you. Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Order, Senators. First, we have Chairperson, Ad hoc Committee on COVID-19 situation in Kenya, Senator Sakaja.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of the Senate today, Tuesday, 12th May, a very special day for me, my daughter's birthday. The 5th progress report of the Ad hoc Committee on COVID-19 situation in Kenya. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. You are careful not to misuse the airtime of Senate to send greetings to members of your family. Nevertheless, thank you, Senator Sakaja. Next. Chairperson, Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources, Senator Githiomi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this House today, Tuesday, 12th of May, the report of the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources on the Sectional Properties Bill, National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2019.
Order, Senator Githiomi and Senator Sakaja, none of you has laid any paper.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
You have just told us what you are doing, but you have not done it.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I consulted the clerk.
Okay.
And he told me that they have the papers.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker,
so this
sir,
is in light of the health issues.
I should think so.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
Yes. Okay.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I also wish to lay on the table of the House a report of the Standing Committee of Land, Environment and Natural Resources on the National Drought Management Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills, number 26 of 2019. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Chairperson, Ad hoc Committee on COVID-19 situation in Kenya, Senator Sakaja.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of motion on the 5th progress report of the Ad hoc Committee on COVID-19 situation in Kenya, that the Senate adopts the 5th progress report of the Ad hoc Committee on COVID-19 situation in Kenya, laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, 12th May 2020, and which I have laid electronically.
Yes, for the record. Thank you. Next order.
Order number 7, statements.
Order, Senators, we have 3 statements pursuant to Standing Order 47.1 and 6 statements under Standing Order 48.1. Those are 9 statements. So we are moving at lightning speed. So I'll start with the first one. We'll go chronologically at lightning speed, and we'll limit our observations so that we can cover all the ground. First, Senator for Trans Nzoia County, Senator Mbito, to make a statement. Is not in the House, deferred. Next, Senator for Kilifi County, Senator Mazayo, to make a statement on the alleged rape and murder in Bamba Police Station, Kilifi County. Senator Mazayo.
Asante Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, kupitia sheria zetu za bunge kipengele cha 47 ya kwanza, nasimama kuongea kuhusu jambo ambalo linahusika katika nchi ama na county, kuhusu kunajisiwa au kubakwa kwa msichana na alafu akauawa kinyama, na hali alikuwa ni mtoto mdogo sana wa miaka 16. Anaitwa Margaret Shukrani Masha.
Now is your statement, Senator Mazayo, in English or Kiswahili?
Bwana Speaker, statement ambayo iko hapa ni ya Kizungu ambayo niliandika mimi, lakini kuitafsiri hii statement hii mimi nimetafsiri Kiswahili.
Order, Senator Mazayo. Why are you complicating your own life? Senator Mazayo, you are one of very experienced judges.
Yes.
You should know that you can make a statement in either of the two languages, but you cannot read what has not been approved by the speaker. So if it's what was approved by the speaker was in English, stick to English.
I stand guarded, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thought it would be better if I spoke in my language where my people whom I represent in the Senate would understand. But however, I still stand guided. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 47, Sub-Rule 1, I rise to make a statement on the issue of countrywide concern, namely the rape and the cold-blooded murder of a minor, namely Margaret Shukrani Masha, on the 4th of February 2020 at Bamba Police Station in Bamba Ward in Kilifi County. Mr. Speaker, I rise to make this statement on behalf of the people, of the great people of Kilifi, who in their wisdom entrusted me with this position, and I hold utmost respect for them. The admiration, Mr. Speaker, for this Senate is unmatched. Mr. Speaker, on the evening of Tuesday, the 4th of February, at about 8 p.m., the residents of Kilifi County and a small town of Bamba, and in particular, the relatives and friends of Margaret Shukrani were met with very devastating news that their girl, who was aged 17 years, was dead in a police state.
What is it, Senator Wambua?
Mr. Speaker, I would hate to disrupt my brother, Senator Mazayo. Mr. Speaker, your own rules concerning sittings at this time clearly stipulate that we cannot approach the Speaker, that we limit movements within the chamber and consultations. The Speaker, have you relaxed those rules? Because I've sat here, seen a lot of consultations with the Speaker, a lot of consultations amongst ourselves, and we are complaining out there that Kenyans have relaxed and they have gone back to normal life. Mr. Speaker, kindly guide us. Thank you.
Yes, I think I have also observed one or two colleagues who have approached the chair. The general principle is that we should minimize that unless really it's an emergency. Or if it's an emergency, yes, you can approach from a distance. but let's minimize approaching the chair as one of the measures. In fact, instead of approaching the chair, you can stand on a point of order unless it's really, really an emergency or is private. Very well. Senator Mazayo. Senator Mazayo, you're finished?
Not yet, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you're still...
I finished giving the direction.
I'm much obliged. Mr. Speaker, last year, in 2019, the late Margaret had been defiled by unknown persons. But investigations conducted, some suspects were arrested. And they were taken to court and charged, and the matter was coming up for hearing. Mr. Speaker, in the evening of the 4th, the late Margaret, in the company of her own mother, went to Bamba police station to meet up with a police officer concerned with the investigation that the matter was coming up on the 5th, who was handling this matter. Because they wanted to borrow that, to ask for a lift, as they could not afford the fees, the fare to travel to Kilifi, Lokots, which is approximately about 50 kilometers away. Mr. Speaker, it was unfortunate that to the surprise of everyone in the company of her mother, that the police directed that the girl stays back in the cell and the mother goes home together with her relatives. They complained about that because they did not know the reason why the girl should stay behind. But well, as the police had already ordered them to leave the station, Mr. Speaker, the poor lady or the mother had to leave. At around 8 p.m. in the same evening, the mother was contacted through the neighbors, and she was told that her daughter Margaret had died in that police cell. Family and friends quickly rushed to the police station, and upon arrival, there was a police van. The police van was carrying the body of Margaret, and it was leaving for Kilifi County Hospital mortuary. The relatives attempted to stop the vehicle, but all efforts to do that, they couldn't. They had carried the body, and they didn't want the relatives to see the body, neither the mother nor the friends around. And the vehicle, the police vehicle, had to leave without the mother having seen the body of her own daughter, the dead body of her daughter. Mr. Speaker, on February 9th, that is about 4 days thereafter, I, together with the distinguished senator for Mombasa, Honorable Faki, who is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, we visited the police station, Bamba police station, to find out the circumstances surrounding the death of the late Margaret. Mr. Speaker, at the police station, we were shown a photograph which was taken through a phone camera. And it was alleged that the lady had committed suicide by hanging herself. Mr. Speaker, that photo raised many questions. Because one cannot hang themselves with a rope that is shorter than they are. Mr. Speaker, the doors where she was hanging on were shorter. The door where she was hanging on was an ordinary door, a police cell. And this girl was hanging there with a hijab, but her feet were touching the ground, meaning thereby that it was not possible for one to hang when you are stepping on the ground. Mr. Speaker, those who handled the body at the mortuary can recall the miner's clothes were torn and her body was mixed with her private parts, basically were oozing with blood. And however, it is so sad, Mr. Speaker, that we made several calls to see the OCS of Bamba police station, one Mr. Titus Mwasia, but he wasn't prepared to meet the mother. Incidentally, Mr. Speaker, when the OCS attempted so much to ask the mother to go to the police station so that he would be able to convince her that she had committed suicide, the mother refused and decided that unless an autopsy or postmortem was done to confirm what led to the death of her daughter. Mr. Speaker, Kilifi County government took the services of Dr. Johansen Oduor so that he would be able to conduct a postmortem report and find out what killed Margaret. But unfortunately, that postmortem report, by the time they were taking that, the body was released to the family to go and bury, that postmortem report had not arrived. Mr. Speaker, it is also painful to know that 3 months or 4 months from up to now, that Dr. Johansen Oduor has not released the postmortem results. Mr. Speaker, one of the most important things we should know, the cardinal rule, is that life belongs to the state. And as I stand here, we want the government to take decisive action against the police of Bamba Police Station with regards to this incident that happened and led to the death of the young girl. Mr. Speaker, I want to seek your indulgence in this matter, pursuant to the Standing Orders 47, subsection 3, that this statement be referred to the Standing Committee on National Security and Defense and Foreign Relations to investigate the circumstances that led to the death of Margaret. Mr. Speaker, there are several questions that are yet to be answered. Why did the police detain the 17-year-old girl in a cell against the provisions of the Children's Act and any other law in Kenya? Mr. Speaker, number 2, that the offense that the minor had, an offense that the minor had committed so that the police would be able to detain her should be disclosed, because they had gone there to seek for transport to be taken to the police, to be taken to Kilifi law courts, to be able to give their evidence with regards to this rape that had taken place and which had already been recorded in the police abstract of Kilifi and Bamba, and the case was coming up the following day. Mr. Speaker,
You've taken too long, Senator Masayo.
I'm just concluding, Mr. Speaker.
Please
I'm
do,
just concluding, Mr.
because you
Speaker.
should not take more than 10 minutes on one statement.
Mr. Speaker, we want to know who are the police officers that committed this crime. And finally, Mr. Speaker, we want to know why has the postmortem report not been released up to now. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. I direct the Security Committee, National Security and Defense Committee, to investigate that matter in liaison with Senator Masayo and provide a report. So ordered. The next statement is by Senator Maura, not in. Senator Maura, deferred. Next, Senator Kasanga. Seeking a statement